don't know if I'm dirty or driven, but I am here. My name is Larry King. You may have heard of me. No, not that one. I'm the live one. I'm on WBBZ Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 in the morning for those of you that get up that early. Is any of this going out? Is anybody hearing this?
Oh,
raise your hand if you
hit
can
that
hear.
live button on you already. That was a hell of an intro, man. I like that.
Well, it was at her. Hey, it sure is good being here as an old timer with you youngsters. And this newfangled stuff, what's it called? Radio? I actually met the guy that talks like that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I was doing a movie called The Golden Arm. Horrible movie if you get a chance to see it pass. And this guy comes up to me. He says, "Are you in radio?" I said, "Well, yeah, I am." He said, "I used to be in radio, but my voice got thin and reedy." I said, "Really?" That was it. He walked away. Made fun of him.
Dang. It's tough if you ain't got the face for radio or the voice for radio.
Boy, tell me about it.
Are we live yet?
Yeah, we're live.
Because it shows waiting on my YouTube.
Well,
What are we waiting for?
it shows that we're live.
The tip jar? Send your dollars in. Send your dollars.
I like you, Larry. We need more guests advocating for the tip jar. Yeah, everybody.
Well, I've had experience.
Yeah.
I've been doing this.
There we go. Yeah, I guess we are live.
Yeah.
Got it.
Ah.
Yeah. It's I guess we'll start off the bat like that. If you like the show, if you like the Dirty and Driven podcast, drop some money in the tip jar. You can click our link. You can go to linktr.ee/Dirty and Driven, and you can donate money to this show. It's pretty cool.
I took away your opening, James.
No, we still got it. What's up, everybody? And welcome back to the Dirty and Driven podcast. No, it's we're here, man. We are live. If you have not already noticed, we just we clicked that go live button, and Larry was already riffing.
I've been on radio before. By the way, if Kamala comes in for an interview, I'm willing to give up my seat.
We appreciate that.
That's all right.
Hey, and I like the way that you say her name too.
Kamala?
Yeah, don't adapt to what they want you to say.
Kamala?
Say Kamala.
Kamala?
It's Kamala, like the Kamala Ugandan giant or whatever in wrestling. It's Kamala.
I remember him, yeah.
You do?
Oh, well, yeah, of course.
Yeah, man.
Oh, yeah. I was a big wrestling fan back in the
Oh, shoot. You
70s
and Casey can
and
just have the
80s.
show, man. It's yours now.
Oh, my well.
Casey loves wrestling,
You
man.
remember Danny Williams? WKY? Long time ago.
No.
And he had a little local wrestling show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Angelo Savoldi. I mean, these were the old fat guys that came out there and threw each other across the rings. Al Spider Galinto. Oh, my, watch out for flying chairs.
Man, I remember them old wrestling shows to where back when you didn't know that it was a fixed deal. And, the old-time TV shows, and you'd see those old ladies with canes hitting the bad guy as they would walk up to the ring. Because they really thought that was the real deal,
You know who Count Gregor was? John Ferguson?
No.
It was on TV.
Man, you're name dropping some.
Well,
some
I'm
old
old.
schools.
I'm old, I know. But Cowboy Bill Watts.
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Cowboy Bill Watts used to tell the story because some places he would go, he would be a face, which was a nice guy. The other places, he would be a heel.
Yeah.
He said he was in one place, and I think it was in Texas. Said he came out of the studio and they'd taken his car apart. You got to be careful.
You sure that wasn't in Michigan or somewhere? It doesn't sound like a Texas thing where they take cars
it was
apart.
Texas, and Texas used to have, because they thought that they were really doing it and they weren't faking it. No, they were all faking it. By the way, I like this studio. I feel like I'm in a confessional.
A confessional, huh?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at the back here.
Yeah.
No, I haven't done that in a long time.
Neither have I.
And I'm not going to either.
You know what's funny is Relo Adams, he's on the live chat right now.
Oh, he is.
For
Hey,
one,
Relo.
you talked about Kamala, and didn't he say something on the live radio yesterday about how she's every boy's dream or something like that? And then, what did he say, Casey?
Yeah. Don't turn on me, but yeah.
Larry said, oh, yeah, you were talking about some actress. And he goes, oh, yeah, she was
yeah.
every boy's dream. And Relo goes, come on.
Oh, yeah. Was it Raquel Welch? It was somebody it was some actress you were talking about.
I want to say like Raquel Welch, but she had a birthday and she was 91.
Yeah.
And I went, 91? I don't want to see a picture.
Also, speaking of conviction, that picture's not as good as it used to be.
Yeah, please, no bikini shots.
Her
No,
boobs
I
are
don't
down
wanna-
here now. No, Relo, he's also on here right now, and he invited me to a Saturday morning prayer session at the church from 8 to 9, and he's messaging in the live chat right now, and it's 8 to 9. So
go,
Relo, keep praying.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. He's great guest host.
Yeah.
Always like him.
Yeah. Well, guys,
sometimes you'll get on the phone and forget what we're doing. But I'm not talking about you, Relo.
Oh. Yeah.
Did they take the D off its name?
Reload.
There you go.
And for the longest time, whenever I met that guy, I thought his name was Reload.
I feel bad because I don't have my hat on here.
Yeah.
Now we're in the cap show.
Oh man, if you're just listening, you got to go check out the YouTube. You got to check out this hat Larry's wearing. That's quite the hat. So what's that hat?
This was a part I played. North Pole Express, the Tom Hanks cartoon, and we did the show over at the Pumpkin Theater, and I was the conductor. Kids would come in, I'd click their ticket, and they go.
They were like,
Didn't
"You're the
pay
guy.
anything extra.
Wait, you were." You were just up there, and now you're here.
We saw you in the movie. We wanted to race you then too. Oh, okay, thank you. So, one of the many costumes I have in my house, which is one reason I don't have any room, or in my apartment, which is one reason I don't have any room. I'm trying to give them away, but nobody wants them. They're all made to fit me.
Yeah, a lot of costumes, huh? Mm-hmm. That's wild. So do you do a lot of acting and stuff like that? I try to.
Okay. I've done a few movies. I'm in Misery at the Ponca Playhouse right now.
Okay.
And I play the sheriff. I die. And I've died on stage many times. If you know what that means, you probably don't, because you don't look like you know what theater is.
So I've been in a play in my adult life.
What was the name of it?
I don't talk about it much.
I've never heard of that play. Who was the author?
He was in Batman and Robin, and he was Robin.
I'll tell you off the air. I got too much street cred on this podcast to say it on the air. What play I was in.
Don't count on that, James.
So you were in Misery. You weren't the author that wrecked the car. And
no, it's going on right. We're doing rehearsal right now. No, I'm the sheriff. It was played by and the name just went away from me. But I saw it, and I saw the movie and thought, wow, I could do that part.
But it's based on the same movie.
It is the same. Yeah,
really. That's awesome.
The guy who wrote it also wrote Adam Goldman. It was written by Stephen King, and Stephen King had a thing once he wrote his book, because people said, "Look what they've done to your movie." He says, "Not my movie. I wrote a book. Made a lot of money out of it. They can do what they want to with the movie," so they changed it quite a bit, and that's what happened with Misery.
I'll be darned.
And
Casey, your wife is talking hella shit on me in this podcast and in these chats right now.
What's she saying? James still has his Robin costume.
James is still late. James still has his Robin costume.
Love those tights. Yeah, put them on.
Yeah,
he's a joker.
I'm not a tights guy. There was one time I went running and I was wearing like running tights, like, Nike compression, and it was cold. And I was
cold.
It was cold. I'm just throwing that out there. And I came home and I'd been running, and my dad goes, "Are you wearing leggings?" And I'm like, I wouldn't really call them leggings. I was like, they're like compression pants for running. Are they at least dude leggings? And I was like, yeah, they're dude leggings, Dad. I had shorts over them, but it was like, yes, Dad.
And this is the guy who's the triple black belt, right?
He's
you can't speak back to him. Yeah. I did a play. I used to do plays at the Garber Dinner Theater.
Yeah.
It's hard to believe Garber has a dinner theater, but they do. And it packs out, and it's always a hero and heroine. And I did one where my pants are blown off, and below that I had fishnet leggings. One of my favorite parts, yes, it was. There are no pictures. But I had these beautiful legs. They look really good.
That's awesome. Now, Larry, you got a little bit of a background in the blue collar world yourself.
Oh man, yeah.
That's what I thought.
Well, I got, of course, the normal story. I was born at a very early age. You did that joke the other day, but then I was given away to an orphanage, which means my personality was evident pretty early.
You became funny.
Yeah, I did, apparently. Yeah. And then I was rescued, and they raised me up. Went to school, went to college. They said I'd be a good teacher. I said, wrong, I'm out of here. I'm going to Hollywood. Was there for 2 weeks, came back. And
What year did you go to Hollywood?
Oh, my gosh, 66, 67.
Really? Dang, man. So you went to Hollywood. You actually went to Hollywood.
I was only there for 2 weeks.
I mean, but you went there for 2 weeks. Like, did you just try to make it up there?
I went in and looked at the phone book for an agent, called him up and said, I'm here. I'm ready to do this. I've got all this experience from college. And there was a place called the Mummers Theater in Oklahoma City, and little theaters. I'd done some stuff. One on West 10 in Oklahoma City on 10th Street. I was from Oklahoma City. Easy to do. Yeah. And he said, all right, well, we're glad to have you. Okay, so I'm getting ready to leave and go back home. And he said, well, what are you doing going back home? I said, well, I've been out here 2 weeks. He said, well, you got to put a little more into it than that. I said, well, you call me. Never did call me.
Never did call you. He was like, yeah, you and everybody else,
stick
buddy.
to it.
Now, that kind of sounds like, the Jim Croce song, Box Number 10?
I've heard it.
Yeah, that's kind of what that's about. He goes to Hollywood and then gets jumped and loses all his money, and then he's asking his parents to send him more money to get a bus ticket home.
Well, there was a bunch of those kids out there like that. I went out there with some money, and a friend of mine sold trailers in a trailer park in Oxnard, Ventura. So I had, I could have stayed as long as I wanted to, but I didn't want to. I came back and got a job in management. C.R. Anthony, remember C.R. Anthony Company?
Anthony's?
Mm-hmm. Anthony's, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was one of their managers, the youngest manager they had, and I managed the store on North May.
And that was clothing. Was that clothing, or what was Anthony's?
It was a dry goods store, clothing, sewing supplies, shoes. Yeah.
Didn't we have one here in Ponca at one time?
Yeah. Everybody did.
Yeah.
The C.R. Anthony told me one time, because I managed his number 100 store in Oklahoma City, or in the company. And he said, if I ever get a 100th store, I'm going to die. Well, he ended up dying when he had 450 some odd stores.
Gum.
So anyway, I was his manager and got divorced. And he came in and said, we don't like divorced people in this company. I said, well, what about your... I'm not going to say anything.
Say it. Come on.
Huh?
Say it.
Oh, well, they don't. The sons and some of the managers, they all had girlfriends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they don't like divorce, but girlfriends seem to have been okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if all that's true, but I know I got a couple of calls about a manager at C.R. Anthony is messing with my wife. Not me, buddy. I got a wife, and she's a nice one. Uh-huh. So anyway, I got divorced and decided, what am I going to do? And a friend of mine, we were in a bar or something, and he said, well, I need a painter. I said, I can paint. And I went and did that, and then he showed me a couple other things. He did total remodel, and then he showed me heat and air. And I thought, well, this is pretty easy stuff. You make a lot of money. And the only problem was you were always dirty and driven because you had to go get your next job. Anytime you're in any type of construction or down and dirty, if you're a manager and if you're a worker, you just sit around, take the money and do the work. Mm-hmm. And so I stayed in the heat and air business off and on 30-some-odd years. Got in the bar business, was there for 20-some-odd years.
Dang. I just, there's so many rabbit holes I want to go down here, man. So
a lot of that overlaps.
Yeah, I'm sure it does, man. I don't know. What's the, man, you just start telling us the story and we'll just start listening. How about that?
Well,
I don't even know where to start, man. You're talking about Hollywood. You're talking about managing a store, managing painting. Bars,
obviously, he has a lot of life experiences, and
I couldn't get along with anybody.
Him on again, but do you have like any... If you had a few highlight stories, bangers that, you know what I mean, at the top of your list to tell, are there any experiences?
Stick with what you're doing. Just because you don't like somebody or you don't like a certain aspect of the job, you don't have to drag what they call dragging up in construction, as you well know.
Man, dude, that's such good advice too. I used to have this coworker. He's one of my favorite coworkers I've ever had. It was the first job I ever had. And he'd kind of work there on and off. He worked there full time for a little bit, but he would because my boss didn't want a full time guy. He had me, who was a high schooler, and I would help him in the summers full time, and then but I didn't have a family. He wasn't worried about, do I have enough work to make sure that you can feed your wife and kids? He was so he had me on there full time in the summers, and then I'd go back to school in the fall and help him on the weekends and whatnot. But I had this one guy. He'd get a good job somewhere, wherever it was, and then he'd wait, and then his boss would do something that pissed him off, and he'd go to lunch or he'd cuss his boss out, and he'd just leave. And it was like, dude, like he'd get a good job and be like, yeah, man, this is the best paying job I've ever had. I'm really happy here. He'd work there for 6 months, 7 months, a year, 2 years, and then finally he'd be like, man, he just been saying stuff that's been pissing me off lately, so I'm just not even going back. And I'm like, dude, you can't do that. You got to stick it out a little bit, at least until you find something else.
Well, that's what they say. They say, the best time to quit your job is when you already have another one lined up.
Yeah.
know.
Well, that was the thing with construction workers, and I worked at the Opubco project in Oklahoma City, which was on Britton Road and not Northwest Expressway, Broadway Extension, when they built that out there. So, but I would see guys, they would come in driving old beater cars, wearing rags and stuff like that. Yeah, we'll hire you. You come in here. And they'd do the job up for 1 or 2 months till they saved up a few $100. And then one guy bought a can of cocaine and left.
A can of cocaine?
Can of cocaine, yeah. $1,500. It was a Folgers can. It only had about that much cocaine in it, but I said, what a goal. Of course, I was too busy being drunk.
That was back when that was that good pure stuff compared to all the adulterated cocaine that's out there now.
Not by the time he got it. Ooh,
it was half baking powder.
Smells like baby powder. Well, there's a reason for that,
cutting
too.
it with baby
Why
powder.
does it smell like Gold Bond? Why is it the medicated Gold Bond?
You know more about this than I thought, James. Way to go. Fortunately, your dad's an attorney. We're not going to talk about that. So. But that number is.
He's not that kind of attorney. No, I don't fit the. I've never fit the cocaine abusive lawyer's son. Thankfully, glad I never fit that mold.
I had a buddy, and a good buddy. He owned a bar that he hired me in. I was the Cedar Greeter maitre d' wine steward at a bar or club, supper club in Nichols Hills called Brigadoon, and only the highest people came in there. You know why I was there? I don't know, but anyway, the guy liked me. And then Sam hired me, which was just kind of a neighborhood bar. But, I mean, you talk about doing cocaine. Here, you'll need. No, thank you. I don't think I need to start a new hobby. I appreciate that.
You need a cup of coffee with your morning bump of cocaine, sir?
Well, I've been around people like that. So, and once again, the alcohol was killing me. Drugs, drugs would have put me under completely. So when the good Lord said, Larry, this was about 1988, said, Larry, you've had enough. I agreed.
That was during the prime cocaine days. Was in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, this wasn't.
I think that was the height.
This was just alcohol. I never really got into the drug. I smoke a joint, do cocaine. Yeah. Very seldom, if ever. Usually, there was a girl involved. But boy, I'd have a drink. I only drank on special occasions like Tuesday, a bird flying over. Only special occasion.
Yeah. And every occasion, I'm a dude in life, everything's special, right?
Yeah, it was. Well, I always knew my limit, but I always passed out before I got there. So.
Oh, geez, man. Dude, that's so, golly.
Fun days. And that's just
so many things I want to go down because, that's such an issue in the construction trades is alcoholism, drug abuse. All that.
And coming on site, we had those problems too.
Yeah. And that was back in the day. I'm sure that guys probably showed up drunk all the time.
Yeah, well, and you talked about going to Michigan one time. I lived in Wisconsin for a couple of years with my second wife, Milwaukee. And up there on the work site, they would have carts come around selling drinks.
Really?
Yeah.
On the job site?
On the job. This was a union. They were all union up there.
Wow.
And they would come around and sit there, all day long. They'd never,
And what year was that? That was like in the 80s, 70s?
This had to have, no, it had to have been 70s.
And they just were coming around on site with a drink cart.
This was everywhere. They did that.
Wow.
The finest nightclubs and bars I ever saw were in bowling alleys. They were set up nice, but everybody bowled. That's what they did up there. Mm-hmm. And, of course, they didn't have construction all year round because of the weather. You couldn't do it that much.
Right.
But
I've always heard up there's two seasons. There's winter and there's construction season. Mm-hmm. So it's like big construction and then done. But I can't believe they're coming around on site with drink.
Well, didn't Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle, they drank while they played ball, didn't they?
Man.
Well, yeah, but the announcers were sitting there. I'm sitting with my butter right here.
Oh yeah, dude. Harry Carey was the best, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he was one. He was one of them, and he was drunk by the end of it. And there were several of them that you never heard about. But it was
too.
It was you weren't a professional. You were a ball player that everybody liked.
Did you ever hear the story about Doc Ellis pitching a no-hitter on LSD?
No.
There's a Tom Skinner song that'll tell you the whole story.
Oh, I wish I'd heard it.
Well, there's a Todd Snyder.
Not Tom Skinner.
Todd Snyder.
Todd Snyder. Okay.
I'll tell you the quick story. Pretty interesting. Doc, in Todd Snyder's song, this is kind of how his song goes. Doc Ellis didn't know that he was pitching that day. I think it was the Pittsburgh Pirates. So he thought he was off that day. So he went and got high on LSD because he wasn't pitching. He wasn't even going to be at the game. Well, next thing you know, the manager or whatever says, hey, man, you need to come in. We need somebody to pitch. And he's like higher than a kite. So he goes out there. He ends up pitching for him and threw a no-hitter while he was just high as a kite. So if you ever look at the story, look up Doc Ellis no-hitter, high on LSD, and it's a pretty cool story. A guy thought he had an off day, and he ended up pitching like a life-changing game.
But the problem is, every time he tells that story, someone's thinking, well, yeah, I could do that. Maybe not LSD, but something else. I had a buddy, and we were doing, it was a club in Edmond, Oklahoma, and we were having the New Year's Eve thing. Mm-hmm. And I said, and he was my backup bartender. I said, now you come in New Year's Eve, you know, here's a vest for you. I want you to wear. I want you to look good. He had long hair and stuff. He was okay. And he walked in, and I knew he was high as a kite. We were going in one of the bigger nights of the year. And he did okay, but it was kind of, you know, and I knew he had a personality.
So you said you did HVAC.
Mm-hmm.
What all did you do with HVAC? Everything? Installs, maintenance?
Yeah, mainly service calls. That's where the big money was.
Oh, yeah.
Not necessarily maintenance, but someone call you up and it's 100 degrees outside in Oklahoma in August. They will pay anything to get you to get that air conditioner going again. And it's usually something fairly simple. Yep. You people listening out there right now, if you're worrying about your air conditioner, it's probably something simple.
Like what?
Washing out the outside condensing unit, washing out the fins, changing the filter.
Yeah, then the next common problem is the capacitors. The capacitor is always the next stage after that.
Capacitor, is that an easy fix? Is that like an easy clean?
It is if you know where it is.
It's an easy fix. Yeah.
Really?
I had one time, and it was a friend of mine. I got out of the business in Oklahoma City because it was what I call a rape and rob. You went in and you looked at them. If they had no idea what you were doing, it cost a lot more than if they knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
And this guy, I went out to see him, and he said, well, my fan's not working outside. I said, oh, condensing fan. So I went out and looked at it. You could hear the, where it's trying to kick.
Yeah. So
I stuck a screwdriver in it. Don't do this at home, folks. And gave it a push, and it started up.
Yeah.
I said, So I let it cycle through again. Came on again. And as far as I know, this was like 6 or 8 years ago. It's still going.
Yeah.
So that capacitor is not necessarily always the problem.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times with start capacitors, they have so much energy in them to get that motor going. That's what they do.
That's what it does.
They hold the energy and they get that fan to spinning. And
the compressor. Yeah, but it's the start capacitor, and it just in there for a second, then it drops out once it gets going.
You know,
and that's what capacitors do.
I find it wild about HVAC guys. Like, I feel like we're so desperate for them right now, right? I mean, I know every HVAC guy in town is like desperate for journeymen. And I've had a lot of pretty interesting conversations with people about, you know, the journeyman stuff here recently. Like, for one, like the guitar player of my band, he's an HVAC guy, and he's worked for like maintenance stuff. He doesn't have his journeyman yet, and
takes 5 years working with a licensed journeyman or a licensed HVAC guy.
Yeah, and he's been working as like a maintenance manager for apartment buildings for the last several years. And I guess he kind of decided to get out of the corporate world and go more to the hands-on HVAC side. Well, he was hands-on with his maintenance stuff, but just specifically HVAC. That's what he wanted to do. And he had a lot of experience with HVAC, but he did not have his journeyman's license. And you call up all these HVAC guys, hey man, I got a guy with good experience. He knows HVAC. He actually knows what he's doing. He's done installs. He can fix stuff. And they're like, unless he's a journeyman, I can't use him. I mean, I've got enough guys already. I just need journeyman, licensed guys, because I can't.
Somebody can send out to do the work.
Exactly.
Someone to make him money.
And I feel like, and then there was another conversation I was having. It was with the lieutenant governor of Oklahoma. We were, my buddy, who's the city inspector, was like, you know, because he was sitting there giving the whole, we need to get more people in the trades and go into trade schools. And I've noticed the state's really pushing trade schools a lot lately because I think that the state's realizing that's where they can make a lot of money. But
nationwide.
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed there's been a big push for it, but I've also noticed there's been a lot more investment in it. So, which is good. I mean, yes. I'm glad that that's happening. Yeah. It's good and bad, you know, in certain ways, because there's a lot of straight to work people too that could benefit. But anyways, different rant. But we were like, well, that's awesome, but like it takes 5 years to get a journeyman, and there's like we need guys that can do work now, you know, that can do it pretty quick. And he's like, well, we're actually trying to make it a little bit easier through some of these programs and stuff like that. But what I'm getting with all this is there's all these, like HVAC, there's such a need. But like whenever you were doing it and you were in it a lot, like, was this an issue where you would get a technician on site and basically they would just give you the whole, oh, yep, here's some Freon and here's a filter and I cleaned your outside deal and that's it? And then
that's pretty much it.
And
that'd be $65. I put in 6 pounds of Freon.
I've
got
cheap.
a 30-pound canister.
I wish that was that cheap now.
I've got a 30-pound canister, and I've been using it, let's see, for 24 years. 6 pounds at a shot. You didn't put in 6 pounds of Freon.
Yeah,
and now it's like $200 a pound or something.
They've recently, crazy. And I can butcher this. They had changed from the old Freon to a new. Now they're mandating they're mandating a new type of Freon that's coming out now. So anybody that has old systems, with a ton of Freon that needs to go in there, you'll have to be up to the latest and greatest.
Yeah, we just bought some new trucks at work that have that new Freon in them.
Well,
but not all the new ones. Just
that's different from what the residential and commercial you're talking about.
But still,
but it's the same concept. Yeah, they're changing the systems totally.
Well,
but what I was asking is, it seems like there's a lot of guys that don't fix it right a lot of times. Though I got into it with a company that, they've come and I finally fired them. I ran them off. They were doing stuff in my rental houses and at my house and. I drew the line whenever they did it at my house because I was out of AC for like 2 weeks and it freaking sucked. And they wouldn't do it right. And they kept coming back and we're just going to charge it. And then it leak out. And like 3 days later, It was like, oh yeah, we'll just charge it again. It's like, dude, there's obviously a leak somewhere or something. But it's just a lot of these guys, it's like they either don't know or they don't care. And
see, the last time I was doing heat and air maintenance, and more or less I was looking for some, and it's going to sound weird, but I was looking for old ladies who couldn't afford it because I knew what was happening in the heat and air business, and they'd changed it. The heat and air business was gangbusters. It was right. It had been right for 25, 30 years, and then suddenly DuPont came in and said, well, we need a new Freon because this one, everybody's got it, and it's cheap. So suddenly they came in with the 4010A and the different ones, ours, whatever it was. Yeah. And so I thought, man, that is just not a good thing. But I totally got lost in there. All that Freon I sniffed over the years. And when I got my license, the state had decided that there was a lot of outlaw heat and air people. Mm. And so they just brought them all in because the guy I worked for, he didn't have a license. He didn't tell me he didn't have a license, but and he's sending me out. I didn't have any type of license. I just had the Freon and show up. And so anyway, the state licensed something like 10, 20,000 of us and gave us a license to go out and do heat and air. And the tax people found out that you were doing it, where before it was all cash deal and you just got the cash. So there's a ultimatum by the state every time they do that and bring it in. But the price of Freon is just, especially R22, is just, they can't make it anymore, except down in Mexico where they make all the Freon you'd ever want.
Yeah, they could make it, but they're not allowed to make it. EPA, supposedly environmental. Yeah.
But they can still use what's in storage or what is, I forget what the term it was. And I've got like 23 pounds somewhere hanging around.
Man, you got some of that black market stuff, don't you?
Yeah.
No. Nope, it's virgin. It's virgin Freon.
Do you guys in the HVAC world? Do you ever, for residential stuff? I know that like vehicles, they've got the deal where you can suck it out and then it recycles it. Like we have those in our shop at work.
You do it in homes too.
Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, you have to have a recycler to pull it out.
Okay.
And you said that and then brought something up, and I just lost it again. That's something I've learned as I've gotten older. One, I forget what the first thing is, but the second one is to write stuff down. I just don't remember anything anymore. But it was about HVAC and about the Freon. Mm-hmm. If it comes to me later, I'll call you guys.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to say a little something for all of our listeners, which if they're blue collar pro, kind of hopefully that they are on our channel. Be careful, but don't be afraid to try to troubleshoot, especially like this HVAC stuff that we're talking about yourself. Mm-hmm. There's enough information out there for anybody that's
Google it.
Just got, Google air conditioning not getting cold and kind of go down the old troubleshooting parts. But then like Larry said, a lot of times if things aren't cooling off in your house, check that filter. Make sure you got a good, clean filter. Make sure the outside is all washed out. There's no giblets in it. But then, as I said, the next step is those capacitors. You have a capacitor that's for your compressor to kick on, and you have a capacitor that's for your fan out there. And sometimes it's just one capacitor that'll run both.
Yeah.
Compared to two.
It's got three connections at the top.
Yeah, 3 connections. But that's the next step. So if you look, you can literally YouTube and do it with caution. If you go outside to work on that, and I'm going to tell you how to do it, but you can YouTube it too. Go out there. Be sure your breaker is off. Be sure you pull your breaker, shut off your
disconnect.
Yeah, disconnect. Make sure that there's no power there. And once you do that, they make it now to where you have to go through a supply house and you have to be a licensed HVAC guy to buy these capacitors if you go through a supply house. But you can get on Amazon and get you a Chinese-made capacitor for like $15. You can next day deliver it to you.
What's a capacitor?
The same one. I mean, make sure you get the same exact one that the label is on there, and take them 3 wires and ding, 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 put it in, and more than likely you'll have that thing fixed, because 70 to 80, I can just make up a percentage number of service calls this time of year is the filter inside, cleaning the outside, and a capacitor. That's the majority of the calls where they make the bank.
I think it's the word capacitor that scares me.
But that's the deal. Don't
multisyllable.
And here's another thing too. You got to make sure those capacitors they store energy in them. So whenever you take those off, you can pretty much take like a screwdriver or something and go across the poles, go across the terminals, because you got to discharge that thing. Because if not, they store energy and you can shock the shit out of yourself.
And if you're not ready, it'll scare you when that snap. Because there's a big one.
What I'm getting at is you can do that. I just had that issue the other day, and I told you I reached out to our Randy guy, and he gave me a couple capacitors, and it was starting to get to where the thing wasn't cooling. I changed out my capacitor, and this thing, our AC is running nonstop, keeping us cool, and that was it. It was a simple fix.
My apartment where I live, and it was in the middle of the week, and it went out, and I called my landlord. So and so owes me money. I'll have him come over here. So it was like a week and a half later, and 110, and I don't complain. The guy came over and looked at it, and said, put in a new capacitor, runs like a top. Has been ever since then. And I thought I should have done that, but I'm lazy. I'm getting old. I don't have to do that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah, you don't own the place, so. Yeah.
No, I don't. Also, if you're out doing yard work and you're weed eating around that condensing unit, there's 2 little wires that go to your thermostat. If you mess one of those up, it's not going to run.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that.
So Larry, you said that you came back from Hollywood and then you were hanging out in a bar and somebody said, I need a painter. And then,
yes.
And then somehow 126 that led to HVAC. How did you get in there and start learning that? I mean,
HVAC?
Because I know you say it's easy, but I mean.
The guy I worked for was an HVAC guy. And he was just a guy who went. Now then, back then, they got your phone number from the phone book. So we would put in a big phone ad, half-page ad. I don't think he ever paid for them, but he put them in. And so the first thing they'd see is this guy. Well, when you're hot, oh, my gosh, we're calling. We were making, and this was back in late 80s, early 90s, I think. We were making $1,000 a day. Easy. Piece of cake. Well, and then we'd shut down and go to a bar because we could have made more.
Dude,
but, I mean, it'd last for 2 or 3 weeks, You had to make it all in the summer because you couldn't make any with heat. But anyway, he taught me this and he taught me that. And I'd been working with him for about 2 or 3 days. And he said, well, I'm going to go fishing. I said, well, okay. He says, here's my beeper. Go get the calls. I said, well, I don't know anything about this. He said, well, just go see if you can do it. So I took Freon and went out there, and a lady called me, and it was a brand new house. I have no idea what it was, and the air conditioner, the condensing unit wasn't working. Fan wasn't going. And I said, well, I can't get into this part. I'll void your warranty. And she said, oh, no. Well, don't do it. And I said, I still have to charge you. She said, okay. I said, but I'll only charge you for a service call, $50. Okay. And I walking away going, wow. I don't know who they called, but that's when I learned about the heat and air business. I got better because I found out when I got away from this guy, it's easier to learn about it if you actually go out and do it. Like I say,
right.
They didn't have Google or anything, but I knew enough about it that I could find out things, check things. I knew what an ohm meter was. I knew how to use an ohm meter. So there's things you can learn. And like I say, everything's Google now. Look at it first.
Yeah.
Go to Google first before you call a heat and air guy.
How long did you do that?
Oh, my gosh. 20 years. Off and on 20 years.
Wow. Just did it 20 years, man. And did it like, is that an industry that changes much? I mean, I don't know much about the heat and air business other than I call them a lot. And whenever you own houses, you call them a lot. And it's like you said, you can make money because people are desperate right now.
It's changed. Oh, that was what I was going to say. There was a point in there when they changed over to the, not R22, but the one after that, 134. Yeah, 134A. Right, yeah, for residential and stuff. But because of the environment, if it was leaking, you couldn't put Freon into an air conditioner that was leaking. Mm-hmm. So you had to find and fix the leak first. Federal law. Yep. You had to do that. So if you went in there, so if someone was calling you every year and you kept going back and putting Freon in there, there's a problem someplace.
Obviously a leak, huh?
Yeah, well, the problem was my girlfriend, and this is when I found out how much it had changed. She had one of these service things every 6 months or something, and they came out and said, "Oh, well, you're going to need a pound of Freon." Last year it was $100. This year it's $200. You got a leak. I said, "Well, I thought you couldn't put Freon in something if it has a leak." Well, that's changed. Yeah, it's changed. So that's kind of what you have to watch out for.
I don't know if I told this story or not. I think I did. A couple of years ago, I was trying to do the old good deed, clean out my outside unit. And so I took off the cover on the outside and got to my coils and stuff, my fins, and washed it all out, got it all ready, put the cover back on the outside of my unit. And right once I was kind of getting it popped in and screwed it in, I heard a psh.
Oh.
I was like, because it's a big package unit. I was like, are you kidding me, dude? And it just, so I called my HVAC guy and I let him know. He goes, yep. He goes, it sounds like, you busted one of them joints. And he goes, I'll get out there when I can. He came out the next day and pretty much he found that spot and brazed it for me and refilled it. But man, sometimes when you try to do a good deed too, because I was doing a good deed, I was getting it cleaned out and prepped. I was doing all the right stuff, but you got to be careful too, because if you nick one of them copper joints or whatever,
hard to believe, because those things are made to endure, because they got to be shipped from someplace to come in.
But it was one of those last, you got everything and you got to get it back just right.
Push.
And I was pushing it right in there and it just snapped her.
Well, everything gets old, and the older it gets, it's
nothing gets
more
better
difficult
with age,
to work with.
Me.
Yeah,
right.
Well, but it was a good business. I enjoyed it. Made lots of money. Spent a lot of money. Yeah. Kept a lot of bars going.
So did you do anything? Did you do anything else besides HVAC?
Oh yeah, I did total remodeling.
Huh?
Total
remodeling.
Okay.
Do paint, add on rooms, added on bathrooms. Did a lot of plumbing. Did roofing. I roofed all the homes, or all the low-income homes in Lamont. I was in charge of the Lamont Housing Authority for about 10 years. Did that, fixed all that stuff, and there was some plumbing things. I thought, oh my gosh, you did these, and you have to go in there and fix them.
Right.
And just stuff. A lot of it involves carrying tools. That's kind of the reason. And then I went to work for the arms side, and I was out there for like 9.5 years, and hurt my back, and kind of, I can make it. And it just got worse and worse, and finally I decided I needed to quit carrying tools. So I quit carrying tools. And now here I am today.
Yeah.
Don't have a tool one.
How old are you now, Larry?
78.
78? Mm-hmm. Man, I wouldn't have guessed that.
What would you have guessed? 77?
I don't know. I would have guessed maybe 60-something, late 60s.
Well, thank you. I'll tell people that. They still card me.
They still card you?
At Walmart.
Yeah. They still
One guy,
can I see your ID?
I'm getting some drugs, over-the-counter drugs the other day, and he comes up and looks. He's about like you, long hair, and stuff, which I have no problem with that. I just cut mine. And he comes up and, yeah, you're over 18. What?
You think?
A lot of it is, who Don Rickles is?
Yeah, the comedian.
Right.
Yeah.
And Don Rickles, who he may be dead now, but his body just gave up on him.
Yeah.
But his mind, he was sharp as a tack. And he said, keep your mind sharp, because that's what it is. So that's what I try to do. I still hope I can talk. I can talk to people. I can say things. And if you ever let your mind get away, as our president has proved, you may have some problems in there.
What do you do to keep your mind sharp?
I have no idea.
You just do, huh?
Genetics, it's that. I mean, I watch TV. I read. I do stuff. I'm not opposed to watching TV or reading something or learning something new. I never have been. I think that's it.
Yes. So. I think that's it. What kind of books are you reading?
Oh, I don't. I read a home repair magazine. Then there's an old people. AARP comes out. It has some pretty good articles in it. Reader's Digest has stuff. I don't have a large attention span. I mean, I did read Killers of the Flower Moon.
That's a good one.
And it was hard to put down. I mean, I read that in like 2 or 3 days. Yeah. So then I did the movie, and I thought, well, this isn't the same book. Yeah.
So you're doing things, and I mean, not to mention, you're also just staying active, right? I mean,
I try.
You're all over the community doing all sorts of stuff, and
not as much as you think.
Well, you see your name and your face out there a lot. So I mean, you're still doing stuff, which is cool.
That's a lot of it.
Yeah, I think that is. It gives you purpose, right?
It gives you a reason to get up in the morning and go do something. The radio show helps me, which, by the way, is on WBBZ AM 1230, Monday through Friday.
Now,
7 to 8 a.m. Oh, yeah.
I had to explain to somebody a couple weeks ago, the last time I was on there. I said, yeah, I'm going on 12:30 a.m. WBBZ, and they were like, why are you going on the radio at 12:30 a.m.? I said, no, it's a.m. 12:30, and they're like, yeah, why are you going on at midnight? I'm like, no, that's the station. It was like,
I never thought about that.
It was like a who's on first base kind of thing.
That is, dude, that's awesome.
I did it to several people that are my age that probably didn't even know AM radio's there.
Yeah.
But,
well, that was the one joke. I was going to get my girlfriend an AM radio. She said no, she wanted to listen at night. I know she's not.
What's the history of WBBZ?
Oh my gosh, started in 1928. And
is it obviously a local or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It was, and I read it several times, and it's not an unusual type thing. But Tom Muchmore's dad took it over in about maybe in the 50s, something like that, and I could be wrong on that. And it was tied in with the Ponca City News, and so it went for a long time, just as AM radio, and then. Lyman James, the current owner, bought it and added the 104.7, the bull in there. Right. And so that's where we are today. I wish I could say, wow, look at all the things that have happened. You know, I mean, went through the Beatles, Elvis, all this stuff. I think there was even a DJ at the time back when they wore suits and ties, said, I'll never play rock and roll again. And, of course, we all know where he is. Who, went away.
Do they call it the call letters? Is that what the call sign or the WBBZ?
WBBZ, yeah.
Is there any type of way that they came up with WBBZ?
I don't know. I worked in Blackwell, and the call letters there, KBLC or something like that, and so it was kind of with the town. When I was in Clinton, it was KCLI for the country western station,
right?
And so I assume that's what it was. WBBZ, there was not that many radio stations, so you probably could have made up your own thing. I don't know.
Interesting.
WKY in Oklahoma City, I was very familiar with, KOMA. And 1,000.
KOMA, we'll put you in a coma.
That was it. Coma. There was a song. You probably don't remember a lot of the rock and roll songs.
Coma Chameleon?
No, that was Boy George. Boy George. When that came out, it was kind of like, okay, I'm going to play. I was a DJ in a club. I said, okay, I'm going to play this.
Man, I love it. Larry, you sound a lot like I do. You know, you got the construction thing going, and then like the club stuff, which, I mean, I'm not much of a drinker, but, you know, I'm in a rock band. So, you know, we're always frequenting the late night scenes.
Well, people come up and talk to you, and they all want to play, don't they? Yeah, I used to play drums. I was in a band in high school called Raunchy and the Maniacs. You probably remember
Raunchy?
them.
Yeah. Raunchy and the Maniacs.
I love that. That's awesome.
That's a good one.
That sounds like some punk rock, man.
No, we did.
Were you raunchy?
No, well.
Or were you the maniac?
I was the drummer, so I was a maniac.
So who was raunchy? Was that the lead singer?
Ralph Doty.
Was that the lead singer?
Well, we would have guest lead singers come in. We were not really we're going to make money band. We were more like a fill-in.
For fun.
Yeah, fill-in kind of humorous type stuff. We'd do assemblies and, you know, junk like that. Where we were out there 10, 15, 20 minutes. I wasn't a good drummer, but I was real good as far as a front man.
Mm-hmm. Dude, we seem to have a lot of guests. Obviously, it's great with our same interests because James and I play music too.
Yeah,
I mean, James is actually a real musician, not me. But it seems like a lot of guys we get on here.
He has a coaster.
Yeah.
That's actually a sticker.
It's a sticker?
It's just convenient.
I can't use it as a coaster?
You can, yeah. There you go. People have. Many have right there.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've seen it here first.
Yeah.
This is the dirty and driven part.
Yeah. Everybody uses that sticker as a coaster.
Okay, now let's ask you, what kind of music do you play? Would I recognize anybody?
A lot of as far as covers go, a lot of late 90s and early 2000s stuff.
So no.
And some modern stuff as well. And then we have our own songs. So, we have quite a few originals that we've been getting out there.
My nephew, and he lives in the Bahamas now with his wife, and he plays in the band over there. I think he plays just because they can be in a bar.
Yeah.
And he's 52, 53, and so they're playing a bunch of the 70s and 80s and stuff like that. He says, yeah, we play old music. I said, no, you don't know what old music is. You get to the rock and roll, 50s and 60s and stuff.
There you go.
Yeah, he probably plays that 70s and 80s because the crowds that they're getting in there now with all the money is the...
That's the ones they recognize, yeah.
Yeah.
I was at NOC. My niece and her husband had come in from England, and we'd gone to NOC, and there was some type of activity going on, a bicycle race or something. No, and I like the roustabouts. Yeah. Most of their shows are good. Some of them, not so much.
Yeah.
But this was an outdoor thing. They were having a bicycle race from someplace to someplace, and there was a cover band. And that's all they did. They were older guys about my age. And they started doing rock and roll and Beatles, Elvis stuff, and like that. And the whole crowd, kids and everybody, was really going for it. And I thought, yeah, they ought to do this more often.
Yeah.
And then they say, who is that? Okay, about like being here.
Your brother Rex chimed in the chats here. He said radio stations all started with a W back in the old days, and then whenever radio stations came along, they started making the radio stations west of Mississippi River start with a K.
Yeah.
See, my brother Rex is what I was telling you was a DJ for KXR.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know him. I'm sorry.
Yeah, when was Rex, when were you DJing? Wasn't it 91, 92-ish? I think he's driving, so it's
just Rex, text and drive us back if you don't mind. It cannot wait.
Rex, worry about texting and not driving.
For all you officers listening out there, Rex is located at.
Rex is pulled over on the side of the road responding to us right now.
Turn his GPS on.
Rex is tuning in with Siri. That is how he is doing this.
This is Rex Anderson with the Hot 100.1 KIXR.
Gosh, never heard that before, have we?
Yeah.
The problem was, and that was the thing, as radios came out everywhere. I was on a garage station in Edmond, Oklahoma. I was taking fundamentals of radio in college on the radio station there, and then there was a garage station. I don't remember what it was, pirated type thing. And there was thousands of those things out there, kind of like podcasts. And so they had to say, well, we've got to, if we're going to license these things, we've got to do it. And that's when the division came. There used to be, you never had anybody that did their real name on the radio.
Right.
And there was the question, well, why is that? Well, people would call the radio station because DJs said all kinds of crap all the time. And they would call the radio stations as well. I heard Rockin' Ronnie, say such and such. Well, we don't have anybody by that name here.
Roy D. Mercer.
Yeah, exactly.
To whoop people's asses.
Exactly. And people would call in and they would be serious. I did a joke one time. I did news, weather, and sports at KLVV before it was KLVV when it was a TV station. And I said at the end, I'd say, and in this news, blah, 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 something like that. And I read a story about some woman who had taken an axe to her husband, and it was close by. And I said, man, whatever happened to Ann Landers? And I just blew it off. That was it, went ahead. And a little lady comes in, oh, you better hope her sons don't hear about it. Okay, no more local stories.
So what type of, they don't call it bandwidth, but what type of reach does WBBZ have? Isn't it like a mile, miles?
Oh, no, I can get Stillwater sometime. I can get it.
I didn't mean it was only a mile, but I meant the stretch. So you can get to Stillwater, you can pick that up.
I have on certain days. Once again, it's the weather and stuff, and that's the bad thing about AM.
Right.
But FM's that way too. So I like to think we listen. I have thousands of people listening to me, but I lie a lot.
So how does that work? Is it all based on an antenna? Or?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, so you obviously would need a bigger antenna to reach farther. Is that the idea?
I don't know.
Or is it like cell phone towers to where you need additional antennas that'll...
Yeah, they bounce off each other.
Right.
Yeah. I think FM does that. I know KLVV, the Christian radio station, does that. They bounce off each other all over the United States, I think. I don't know that I've been into that technical part of it.
All right.
Or really cared about it, to tell you the truth. I mean, if I can listen to it, great, that's fine. But I don't think I would ever be the one that climbed the tower. There used to be a group that came out for the tower out there, and they were all ladies. And they would go up and paint the tower and just come on up with us.
Women?
Yeah.
You mean women?
Ladies, women, same thing. Wow. You need to get out more often. You've been married a long time.
Rex was in there 90 to 93.
Oh, okay.
And then he said voice texting.
So I remember in ninth grade, I always say back in my day, but back in the early 90s right there, we would sit around the radio, and it was KIXR was big back then, but we would sit around. I was in junior high, but we would listen. They would have a deal called Boogie Check, and they'd have a Ponca City Graffiti. And during that deal, we'd sit around, and it was a time, like an hour or two slot at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, where you could call in and, give your request for a song, but give a shout out. Yeah, this is Casey. I'd like to say hi to my friends Mike, Steve, and go East Junior High Kittens. We'd say something like that, right, and hang up. And my brother was DJing then. Well, we had just played a game up in Ark City in football, and we had beat Ark City on the last second touchdown or something. Well, my brother ended up having me come in on the radio station, and he interviewed me, live on the radios. And here I am, a ninth grade kid, getting to go into the studio and be asked, about the touchdowns and stuff. And man, it was a trip. It was such a good time back then.
Oh yeah, you get on the radio whenever you're a little kid. It's like this. People come on the podcast, especially in like the early days whenever we'd have like 20 people listening. They'd be like, "Oh, I get to. You want me?" Casey kind of had that reaction the first time he came on. He's like, "You want?"
Everybody does, man.
Yeah, I know. It's so cool, man.
Yeah.
People, because you're seeing all of a sudden people and you're like, "Holy shit!" And then it's like, they don't know that it's like at the time it's like 20 people, and now we got a pretty good audience, and but back then it was just always funny. People like, "You want me on your podcast?" It's like, or like if I was a little kid, it'd be like Brent McCoy over there. He was on the Christian radio station. He was a good friend of mine, and he'd bring me on sometimes, and he'd be like, and I'd be like, "Dude, Cloud freaking 9, holy crap! I get to be on the radio, dude. That's wild."
He's down in Edmond now, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's dynamite guy, dynamite personality.
One of the best guys I know.
Yeah,
I mean,
great word,
good Christian.
Great word, dynamite. I like
dynamite.
Thank you. You've never heard that word before?
Well, just descriptive word. Just don't say it on an airplane, right?
Yeah. This guy's dynamite.
Or when you run into a buddy that you haven't seen in a while and you say, "Hi, Jack." Don't do that on an airplane.
Yeah.
Hey, didn't Jimmy Walker used to say dynamite?
Dynamite, yeah.
That's right.
Dynamite.
Jimmy J.J. Walker. I had a chance.
What's happening?
I was running a club in Clinton, Oklahoma, and we had all kinds of money because it was during the oil boom, and I had darn it, just went away. Anyway, I had a chance to get Jimmy J.J. Walker. I said, "This is a cowboy bar." "Oh, he does real well in a cowboy bar." No, we're not going to have Jimmy J.J. Walker.
And that was the What's Happening guy, right?
Yeah, it was him. He was still doing stand-up. I had Chubby Checker.
Really?
He did great.
Damn.
And, Ventures. The Ventures, you probably never heard of them. You can't. Well, the Ventures, Hawaii 5-0.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's who did it. And they were big back in the 50s and 60s. And then they went to Japan, and no one heard of them again. But they were making a fortune over there. Came back here and came to my little club.
They need my shirt, Casey.
He's big in Japan.
I've got a shirt, huge. I've got a shirt that says "I'm huge in Japan."
Really?
Yeah.
And people call you about this?
They need that shirt, man. They're huge in Japan.
So you have
that was my brother. He went over there and he went broke. He opened up a bunch of tall man shops.
He opened up a big and tall store in Japan.
Yeah. But fortunately, he bought a bunch of cameras and brought them back over here, but they all went crick. Have we offended anybody?
Oh, man. So, Larry, I do want to circle back to something. You were talking a lot about, kind of some of the issues you had with like alcohol and stuff back in the day, if you don't mind.
It wasn't an issue.
That.
I mean, I had it.
You had it.
I liked it.
Yeah. So how did, that's such a common thing in the trades, man. And I love talking to it. I mean, if you're willing to talk about that stuff, like, tell me about what that looked like and how you got out of it and all that stuff.
I met the Lord. I came to Lamont, and I was doing a DJ thing in a club. A friend of mine owned a club in there. He said, "Come on in and do DJ."
A club in Lamont?
No.
Oh.
Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And I said, okay. And it was on Fridays and Saturdays nights. And so the girl I was living with at the time had a request for me to leave. And so I got in my van and I loaded up what I had and I left and came to Lamont where my sister and brother-in-law had moved. And they moved there on the condition that I would come in and remodel their house. Well, I said, great, I'll do it. And they said, okay, we've got like $12. And I said, okay, not going to take long to get this remodeling done. Yeah. So I drive back and forth to Oklahoma City and do it. And this time, I'd moved out. And so I went back up there. I said, well, I thought I'd just come up here for a couple of days, and drink some beer and watch some TV. And my brother-in-law says, well, we don't watch TV anymore. What? Mm-hmm. And Tuesday night, this was on Sunday, I think. And Monday, I kind of slept off whatever was going on. Tuesday night says, well, we're going to the church. I said, okay. I said, you're coming with us. Okay. And so I went and they sat on the very front row of the church, a little small Pentecostal church. And I thought, what is going on here? Mm-hmm. And the guy who was speaking, who used to be the chief of the highway patrol for Oklahoma, he was the speaker, and he would come over and point at me like this, and I mean, the Lord just took me and shook me and broke everything.
Wow!
And I thought, wow, I don't think I'm going to leave this place. I didn't quit smoking. I just never bought another pack. Finished the pack, and never wanted to drink again, and a bunch of other stuff.
That's awesome, man. So you were able to snap out of it, with that experience, huh?
Yeah,
that's awesome.
And a lot of people. That's how they get out of it, by realizing there's something more powerful than your ideas since they haven't worked. Yeah. And that was what happened with me, and I've been with it ever since then.
That's awesome, too, because, like, I was talking to my neighbor not too long ago, and he was telling me, and he was like, man, he goes, quit drinking. He goes, I grew up in the 70s, man. He goes, anytime you walked into someone's house, they'd hand you a drink, and that's just what it was. Nobody thought about quitting drinking or doing that. That's just the way we lived back then. And
well, that's the way it was with me. We drank beer, Coors beer, unless we could break into a.
See that right there, Coors Banquet, right there. See, that's
Is this Coors?
Yeah, see, making a banquet.
I wouldn't know that. That was a little bitty cans. It was Coors Banquet. Yeah,
and they had the old pull tops. You rip the.
Yeah,
ring off.
We got Coors all over the studio behind Casey there. I guess you can't see it in the camera.
I'm an advocate. Were you consciously trying to quit, or was it just one of those deals that you just?
No, I didn't know I had a problem.
Yeah,
because I'd been through several girlfriends.
Right.
And once again, when I say the stick with it stuff, maybe it would work out better. I'd been through 2 wives at that time.
Right.
Several girlfriends, several different clubs. Several different jobs. I could always get a job. I had that kind of personality. People just liked me for some unknown reason for a while. Like I said, when I got up there, they said, we're going to go to church. I said, well, they're not going to let me come back if I don't go. Okay, I can do it. And I thought at first, this is kind of a ringer deal. I'm sitting on the front row in front of all these wild Pentecostal people who are going, oh, hallelujah. Oh, no, man. And they speak in tongues and do all that stuff. And like I said, the Holy Spirit just grabbed me and said, you don't need to do what you've been doing anymore. And I listened.
Did you see a shift after that experience with relationships and work and all that after you, I guess, gave up alcohol and stuff?
I never went back.
Yeah, but did you see a shift? Because you talked about, you went through a few relationships and, from job to job or whatever. But after that experience, did you see your life change with the way things happen?
Not really. Not really. As far as if I didn't like a job that I was doing, I'd just move on to something else.
Right.
Because I knew I could move on to something else.
I didn't know if you had more clarity maybe after that experience.
I don't know that it was clarity. It was just my personality.
Right.
I knew I could do pretty good with something. I got a job as the janitor at the high school. And this is in Lamont. And then they had me announcing football games. They wanted me to DJ dances and stuff. I said, well, my church doesn't really go for dancing, you know, which I didn't know if they did or not, but I just said that.
Was dancing really a problem back then for
no, it's
the
what
way some because you remember the movie Footloose?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And how that was, you know, I don't know, is the churchy part of it was, how dare you go to dances because that's a sin and stuff. But then at the end, you know, everybody danced. We just want to dance. But was that really an issue back then, dancing?
No, the issue was what happened after the movie stopped and they all went outside and got in the cars. That's where the dancing problem is. I mean, in the Pentecostal faith, we dance in the Spirit, and you'll see people dancing in small churches.
Right.
Some of the bigger churches, you see that. I had no problem with it. I don't do it.
Right.
But, you know, that's not my thing. But as far as the dances in schools and things like that, those are fine. But what happens when you get out and you go to a club? And I can tell you what happens when you get out and go to a club. There's going to be some friendship. And that's where the
relationships for tonight.
And that's where the kids come from and the pregnancies and the stuff like that. Because once again, you're doing alcohol. You could care less about watching out what you're doing. So.
Well, however you celebrate, because you're a baby boomer, right?
Oh, yeah. Just before that, at 45.
Yeah, so 45 was right after we won World War II.
World War II, yeah.
We won World War II. Nobody else had
you
a
hear
hand
that?
in it.
Germany, Japan, whenever we kicked your ass.
We waited until everybody else exhausted all means to defend themselves, then we got into the war.
Heck out of here.
Man, the reason why I brought that up was
really hard on Japan today. Sorry, Casey.
There's a time for celebration, and obviously somebody probably celebrated at the end of World War II because you came along, right?
Happened in Vietnam, too.
Yeah.
I mean, anytime there's a war or a big thing like that, the guys come home, you know, and I see no problem with it. We could take care of them. Back then, you learned to have kids and take care of them.
Yeah.
This was starting to be a problem once again, I went into an orphanage. I've got 2 sisters and a brother, and we were all 4 adopted by the same family. We all went into an orphanage, and we were all post-war babies. So, and there was a bunch of them out there. So,
where were you born?
Oklahoma City.
Okay, that's right. You said that.
I thought it was someplace far off because they kept talking about the orphanage and all this stuff. My mother and father, they never held it from us that we were adopted. And so then one day we drove by this place on 39th Street. She said, yeah, that's where you were, where we got you. I thought, you know, it's like Kmart or something. But
right.
No.
Didn't you say that you had some military service?
Army Reserve.
And how did you get into that?
I have a story about everything.
No, that's the reason why we're here.
This was just before Vietnam escalation.
Right.
And I was reading gas meters. I'd gotten out of college. I was reading gas meters, and a buddy of mine says, you know, you need to join the military because they're going to draft you. I said, well, I don't know. He says, you come join my Army Reserve unit, and he'll get a half day off of training. I said, oh, okay. So I said, okay, they're going to draft me. So I went and joined the thing, and there was like 40 guys in the unit when I got into it. 2 weeks later, there was like 350 guys. Everybody and their dog was trying to get into Army Reserve units. And I just thought, well, okay, I'm fine. This is what it is. Then the Vietnam escalation started. I was in that unit 2 years before we went to basic training. So we knew everything there was to know about basic training, what it was, and how to do the marches, how to do the turns, your left face, all that. We knew everything going into it. Most of us were like 21 years old, while most of the draftees were like 18,
right,
17.
Because you'd already been in 2 years doing the same stuff, right?
Well, I waited a while before I even thought about going in the military. I was in college.
Right.
So there was a deferment there. So then and I never took advantage of this stuff. It's just, okay, that's what happens. And so, and a bunch of the guys were older than I was. I was probably 19 when I went in, but a bunch of the guys had been in there and the same thing. And so they were older. We had one guy that was like almost 40 years old in the basic training unit. He had to leave and go home because his dad died. Then he came back. And it just kind of fell into place. And I was there for 6 years. The commanding officer for our unit said, well, the last time this unit was called up, it cost us like $425,000. So we're going to tell them we're not really ready to go anyplace. So I stayed in Norman, Oklahoma the whole time. And the whole time I was in Norman, Oklahoma, not one Vietnamese got past Dallas. If you guys were a little older. Well, I was a fixed wing rotary wing mechanic, and as our whole unit was. So if anybody was going to go, it would have been us. So they didn't take the Army Reserve and the National Guard like they do now.
Right.
Interesting. So, man, going back to some of the trade stuff, man, there's just so many. Rex said, "I wish the Spirit would help me with carbs and processed foods."
well, Rex, let me tell you this. I just had a major surgery a couple of months ago, and this is old man stuff is what I call it. And I had about 3 pounds I was having problems with getting rid of, because I've always been thin, and once you're thin, you're going to stay that way. Well, I was gaining a little bit of weight, and then this thing happened, and I dropped like 20 pounds, and that was without getting a haircut. And so I'm out there, and I'm like, oh, look at this. And now I'm slowly gaining it back because of the processed foods and stuff. So I've gained back about 8 or 9 pounds, and I'm just kind of worrying where it's going to do. So I haven't thought about praying because I like processed foods.
I got you. Yeah, it's a tough one to kick.
Well, it is, and you go work out and you do stuff. You get to a certain age where that body genetics, whatever it is, kind of goes away, and you start putting on weight where you don't want to. All mine's going around my waist, but I have no butt, so my pants are always falling off.
And belts ain't worth a crap to you.
No, if you don't have anything to hang them on.
Yeah.
Well, cognitively wise, that was a tough word, man. I about passed out.
I hear you.
You about passed your brain straight out.
You're not too far behind the President Mumbles, and you're doing pretty damn good for yourself, whether it's processed foods or whatever. So,
and that's when we say amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But look at Trump. Basically the same age, right? And this guy's sharp.
Yeah, night and day.
Yeah.
Have you thought about president? You're in the right age bracket for it.
Yeah. Or Congress, whatever.
Yeah, you guys want to contribute with your little tip jar?
Yeah.
We want you to get in.
Donate to Larry King's campaign on the Dirty and Driven tip jar.
Yeah, we want you to get into Congress and then let us know about the bills that are getting ready to be passed. That way we can invest before you pass a bill.
I would be the kind of guy that wouldn't be in there long. Dr. Tom Coburn, remember him?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He was in there like 1 or 2 terms. And he started saying, well, look, we're spending money here where we shouldn't be. And every year he came out with this thing. Well, he didn't last too long. And he was sick, too. But they kind of force you out in that type of stuff.
Yeah, you got to play the game.
The first thing they do when you go in as a new congressman or a senator, they get you in a room and say, now, look, this is the way it works.
Yep.
If you want to retire on full salary, you have to be in 6 years. You're in for a 4-year term. You need to get elected the second time. And that's where it happens.
Yeah.
I was mayor of a small town, and that about killed me.
And what small town was that?
Lamont.
Yeah.
You know what I talked to our mayor here in town, and he said, you want to know the secret to being in any leadership position, anything where you're, especially in the public eye a lot? I said, what's that? And he goes, you got to have more ass than they have teeth. He said, if you got more butt than they can chew, then you're doing all right.
And see, Larry doesn't have much butt left, so
yeah, he's
well,
done chewed it all off.
Well, I always tried to come back with a reason for something happening. You can't do this. I put in put in new streets on the whole west side of town. In 2 years, I did east-west, and then I did north-south. Mm-hmm. And the people on the west side of town, the people on the east side of town screaming, both of them, why don't we have streets over here? Well, where 80% of the traffic is where we're going to start. Now, there was $500,000 in the bank. There was dogs. There was bad streets, bad water. There was refrigerators, and so I started cleaning all that stuff up. People hated me for it. I said, is this your dog? No, that's my son's dog. Do you feed it? Yeah, it's your dog. So all I did was do the laws. Well, I got rid of the dogs, got rid of the junky refrigerators, got grass cut. Had a pastor come in and say, well, we kind of came in here and looked at this town. We kind of liked it. It was nice and clean, and everything looked like it was kept up. And then, of course, that all changed when I went out. And then they said, well, will you go back in? Okay, I'll try it. And it just wasn't the same.
Yeah, I keep telling Casey I'm going to run for governor here in like 20 years or so. So, but the more people tell me, the more I'm like, do I really want to deal with that?
Well, the problem is, when you do something like that, and that's why Trump is such a outstanding, let's say, candidate. Mm-hmm. he's totally different from what they've had.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan, same way, although he was a governor, totally different. We're gonna do something. We're gonna make something change around here.
Now, were you around? Ronald Reagan came to Ponca City one time. God, had to been. I bet it was in the '80s. Whenever Evans repaved 14th Street years and years ago, and they put in for a smooth paving award for the state of Oklahoma. Well, it won, so it got submitted for the National Smooth Paving Award, and it ended up winning the smoothest road in America for that year.
And I never knew that was an award.
It's an award.
Who cares?
You wouldn't exactly. Yeah. You wouldn't know unless you're in the industry. And literally, the award ceremony is just like, all right, and these contractors won this, and that award. All right, thanks everybody. Let's have dinner. It's not a very big deal. But anyways, what I was getting to is the National Smooth Paving Award. It won it for 14th Street. And right in front of the Evans office and everything. And Ronald Reagan came, and there's a plaque hanging on. It's right outside of my office. And it says, presented to Jerry Evans, who was the founder of Evans. And it says, the smoothest road builder in the country. And Ronald Reagan flew to Ponca City and presented him that award here in town. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Was he president at the time?
I think it was when he was running for president. So he was not,
okay. So he was everywhere.
Yeah, so I don't think he was a president yet. It was either right before he started his campaign or when he was campaigning. But he was not president yet, no.
Well, when Evans came into Lamont and put those streets in there, I went from all these people to dead silence.
Yeah, for the whole week.
Just nothing. And a story I have about that, when I had one of my little times in jail from drinking and driving back when I was in the nightclub business. And I went in and said, well, they said, can you cook? I said, well, I managed a restaurant in Milwaukee. Okay, you're going to be the head cook. Okay. We went in there, and a guy came in. Now, they would make chicken on Sundays, and they would cut the chicken up and throw it into the fryer at 350 degrees. No breading, no nothing. And then you'd take it out and give it to these prisoners who weren't happy about being there anyway. I mean, they're screaming, throwing stuff throwing plates and everything. So a guy came in, and he was a chef. I mean, a good chef. He said, well, why don't we bread this stuff and then turn this down to 250, or turn it down to 350 from 500, and then we'll try it. And I said, okay. We had mounds of fried chicken, looked like the current. I said, what? So we go out into the area where we feed these prisoners, and you put a chicken into one, and then suddenly it was dead quiet. I got that same effect from Lamont.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the same people or not.
It probably was.
Hope they can't listen. Sorry.
No, they still don't have internet in Lamont, so I think that they. I don't think they're listening.
Hey, I have a public service announcement from one of our listeners.
Okay.
Which one?
His name's Joe.
Oh, hi, Joe.
He wanted to let us know that the K County GOP will have Trump yard signs available for the suggested donation of $8. And I know we have a lot of more right-leaners than whatever. So these are the nicer corrugated plastic signs with the metal wicket to hold them. So he's picking them up from the printer tomorrow. And
how do you get hold of them?
They'll be having a raffle starting at the fair.
Is he paying us for this ad?
Is
he paying us for this ad?
He's a good one.
Well, is he paying us for this ad?
Yeah. I'll get the money to you.
Okay.
Check that tip jar.
As long as check that tip jar. We don't just give free shout-outs.
Also, there's a raffle starting at the fair for your choice of a bolt action 308 or an AR-15.
Oh, hey, speaking of the fair, Fading Fast playing there Friday night, 7 to 9 p.m.
Oh, are they paying? Oh, I guess they are.
That's our sponsor. Right. Fading Fast is an actual paid sponsor.
And
at least their manager is.
And I have their coaster.
Yeah, there's our coaster.
So
sticker.
we can't do any political ads on here without being paid for. So.
Okay, and yet he just spent 10 minutes on Ronald Reagan. What the heck?
Well, you know.
Yes, I do.
Well,
now, how do you get a hold of the guy to get the yard sign? Did you tell us?
No, that's a good point.
Just drive around, steal somebody else's.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Save the $8. Yeah. Put it in their tip jar. Yeah, that's going to happen.
I actually was talking to a couple of our elected officials around here.
I ran into Homer the other day.
they were telling me about their yard signs and, all the games that those guys play, whenever you're running against different people and, we put them out, this day so people can't steal them and we put them out, it's just all the fun games.
His name's Joe Vaden. You can reach him on any social media site. So
okay.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, I don't even have a yard. I have to get a yard first, and that cost me a fortune. It'll be over the $8. Darn. Thanks, Joe. Now it's in my mind. I can't. Okay.
But you can pretty much fly an American flag, and then people will know who you're voting for. So that's the same as having a Trump sign in your yard.
Yeah, how right you are.
When did the American flag be associated with red Republican? Because that's what it seems like if you fly it in your yard.
A few years ago.
Ain't that something, though? Just patriotism?
I guess.
Well, when did boys considered to be girls?
There you go.
That's all fairly recent too, right?
Mm-hmm. I'd say since 08.
When did all this stuff about okay, we can't have religion in schools. You can't say a prayer in schools because it's the one God. Well, that's a pretty good God if you ask me. And I think if we peel back all this stuff until you get into Wiccan and all that junk like that, you're going to find it's the same God for the Muslims. It's the same God for all the other people too. But we can't do anything about it. But anybody else can.
Yeah.
But just a Christian. There used to be see you at the poll at the schools.
Oh, yeah.
They still do that.
Still do that?
Yeah.
But
They did that back when I was in school, too.
It can't have an adult lead the prayer. It's got to be a student. I have no problem with that. But why can't an adult lead the prayer?
Interesting.
Indoctrination.
That's it right there. Yeah. We're just going to say you're wrong, therefore you're wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to get off on the political side. But
no problem.
Casey, I was just throwing him a little bone for him to kind of veer off a little bit. Because,
Well,
the thing is, I don't mind talking politics here and there. I mean, like I said, one day I do want to run for governor, and that's actually not a joke. But vote for me 20 years from now.
Here, let me give you $1.
Yeah.
By then, it'll be worth $10,000.
2044, if we still have democracy. If not, I'll be a good dictator. I promise I'll be a good one.
The old iron fist.
Yeah.
Well, this is being recorded, and you will hear this in about 20 years.
Yeah, I'll hear this 20 years. That's what I always tell Casey.
Yeah.
Like, dude, there's hours and hours with AI. Somebody's going to be able to, just analyze all this and be like, oh, here's where he said he'd be a great dictator. I'm like, I was 26, chill, But no, I don't even remember what I was going off. Oh, yeah.
Oh, you've been a good politician.
I always just let him, I let him just get it out of his system. It's like you just got to run it around, But we all think it. But I just get I get tired of hearing about it, It's like all you see on the news, and it's all you see on Facebook, and it's all you see on.
Problem
everywhere.
is, it's getting down to the same thing all the time. But if you're going to vote, shouldn't you know what you're voting for?
Yeah.
But if you say, okay, I'm not going to listen to any more politics, and every day there's something new coming up. The Kamala, whoever she is, Kamala. She just came out with this economic thing that is, okay, we got $1.2 trillion or something like that. We're going to give it away just before the election.
Yeah.
But she hadn't done anything in 3.5 years.
Yeah, buying voters.
Yeah,
She's
exactly.
had 3.5 years to do that, and all of a sudden she cares.
Denzel Washington, I think, had the best quote about it. It was, if you don't read the newspaper or watch the news, you're uninformed. If you do, you're misinformed.
Yeah.
And it's like, where's the line?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I do keep up on stuff. I do like to read about laws that are being passed or voted on and things that are being, because you got to be informed, especially if you're like me and you work in an industry, heavy highway road industry, where your funding comes from the government.
Right.
You do have to be savvy and keep up with that stuff. But it's like, I feel like it always boils down to who's president. And I like to talk about everything, city, state, county, all that too, along with federal, because believe me, the federal laws have been wild lately. Even, people think, oh, how's this going to affect my life? Well, it ends up affecting your life. Even if you're a blue collar dude holding a shovel, there's guys on our crew, they do not even understand that a lot of rules that are getting pushed on them from the company are rules that are being pushed on us from federal contracts.
That's I was watching on one of your shows, and you were going to talk about minimum wage. Never got to it. I watched for 12 hours. Never, but anyway, that's the whole thing. Minimum wage and energy. If it wasn't for those things going up, everything else would be okay. Mm-hmm. But the energy, everything in here came on a truck. Yep. I mean, everything in here came on a truck.
Yep.
And then you look at minimum wage. I remember I made 55 cents an hour when I first started working for a big corporation, Humpty Dumpty. You know, as a sack boy, I looked good, had to wear a bow tie, hated
grocery
that.
store.
Wow. Exactly. And but then I went to work when I was 14 at 15 and 2 months, something like that. Minimum wage came in, $1.15 an hour. I thought, wow. And they said, Larry, we can't hire you because you're not 16. The day I turned 16, the manager of the store called my mother and said, send him back. We're ready for him. And I thought, wow, $1.15 an hour, that's all the money in the world. I was talking to a truck driver who was making $6 an hour. I thought, that's all the money in the world. And then my mother never stopped complaining after that because the cost of food went up. So all this $20 an hour and $15 an hour, you're paying for it.
Well, and here's what I don't understand is like, okay, you and I were talking about it yesterday whenever we were, in the station. I think it was whenever we were off air. But, back in, say the 70s, 80s, even 90s, you had more jobs available than you had people that could, you had more people available than you had jobs to put them in. So the job market was pretty competitive and things like that. And then, you could essentially, if you were a company, the companies had all the leverage. They could get away with paying people slave wages. Now, you have way more jobs opening. You drive down the road and you see 1 million help wanted signs, and there's not enough people to fill them. And especially with as many online jobs and work from home jobs and things like that, marketing jobs, stuff that is more luxurious and pays better and you can do.
That slave wage thing is still going on.
Yeah. Oh, it still happens. I mean, especially at times. But the federal minimum wage, raising it to $15 an hour, how's that going to help people wanting to pay nothing? I mean, if you see a lot of like gas stations, they're help wanted, and we can't find anybody that wants to work for us. But then it's like, well, you're paying $9 an hour. I mean, it's like I can go down the road to Walmart and start at like $14 an hour doing the same job.
And that proves what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Here's your minimum wage. You're being forced to pay this, so you're being forced to charge this to pay for the $14.
Yeah, they're showing that in California where they've raised the minimum wage like that. So they're automating a lot of stuff. They're getting rid of jobs, or they're closing down businesses, or they're passing on that. They're just raising their prices and passing that on to the consumer. So it's not like
that's
people
it.
are getting
That's what happens. Except, and even out there. Unless you were a friend of Newsom's when they passed the law who bakes bread, they don't have to pay $20 an hour. Haven't figured that one out yet.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's Panera Bread, and a friend of his owns Panera Bread, so they don't have to pay the $20 an hour.
Well, Newsom was eating in restaurants too whenever there was a COVID lockdown. He could go in public and eat, but nobody else could.
Well, he's getting a lot of feedback, and he said they're going to start because people are tired of people urinating and defecating in the streets. And Newsom said we're gonna pass the law, and that's going to be our number 1 and number 2 priorities.
So
got a better laugh yesterday, but that's okay.
No, I still laugh at it.
That's funny. No, but I mean, it's like I feel like the minimum wage is just irrelevant anymore because in today's labor market, if you don't have people, you are not going to stay open. I mean, period. I mean, if you have no one to work for you, no one to do the job, they're not going to work for you. So obviously, there's people that aren't so desperate that they'll go work for $9 an hour. So I think what companies have to realize now is, we have to take care of our people and we have to actually offer something worth working for. Like all these companies have always had the leverage, and now the employee has the leverage. So I think once companies realize that, they'll be in a lot better spot. But I don't even know why we still waste our time.
But there's a lot of guys out there that'll work for $9 an hour that don't do drugs. They may not have a Wii gaming system. They may not have cable television. They may not drive a car. And the other thing is, if they have to, because they have a family, but their formula's gone up, food has gone up, gas has gone up, utilities has gone up, and still they're trying to work for $9 an hour because that's all that's offered to them because they're unskilled.
I don't know. There's a lot of unskilled positions that are starting a lot higher than $9 an hour, though.
They have to because they have to have a warm body in there. But it requires something besides just Joe Blow showing up with his phone, looking at his phone all day.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it comes back on the individual too. I mean,
exactly.
No matter. I mean, that's what this podcast is all about, right? Like, I mean, for example, where I'm at, we probably have the highest spot for an unskilled laborer to start right now. Unskilled, you can come in. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to hire you if you don't have any experience or you're unskilled. But if you come in and you've got a good attitude, you fill out your application right, and you're respectful, odds are you're probably going to get hired if we're in a spot where we need to pick up 4 or 5 guys. Because, I mean, we have a big crew, and we need to pick up, some guys. And, like, I hired 4 guys yesterday. Why? Because they followed the instructions. They were respectful. They were polite. One of them, all he'd done is worked in fast food, and then he worked for his uncle who's a farmer for like a month, And then another guy had worked in construction for a while. And I almost grade more based on your willingness to learn, your communication skills when you're in the interview, how firm your handshake is, whenever I meet you.
Exactly.
And if I'm going to hire you, that's what I'm looking for more than, oh, okay, you've worked, as a da-da-da for 25 years. Like, if you just master those things, you can get a way better $9 an hour job. If you're saying that's all that's offered to you, then that you probably, maybe you take that job to start, but you need to be working on yourself and improving yourself to where you can get a better one.
Well, in the movie Twister, Casey worked $7.50 an hour. Isn't that what you said it was? You were making $7.50 an hour.
Yeah.
Cutting out these little things.
Yeah.
Probably thought at that time that was not bad pay for what you were doing. They were paying me $14 an hour for basically doing what I did in Lamont.
Right.
And putting stuff together. They had us put together these yard towers. Mm-hmm. And one guy saying, I said, why are we doing this? We did like 20 of them. I said, why are we doing this? What are you talking about? They're all over Oklahoma. Some of them are 40 feet tall. I said, those are water wells. They didn't know that. This is stuff they didn't know. Raised this to $16. Said, here's $300. What's this for? This is your float. Money to go out and buy stuff and to do it. So, yeah, if they could get you for $7 an hour for not or $7.50,
right.
All the security people in those yellow shirts were making like $7 an hour.
Right.
And they thought they were running the place.
Yeah.
But there was a difference in there, and the Hollywood money was on up in there for basically doing the same thing you were doing.
Yeah.
I just knew the right people. If they would take the minimum wage away, we would have a problem for a short period of time. Mm-hmm. We're having it right now, even raising that minimum wage. People can't afford to pay it. You can't be a mom and pop business. You can't be a small business. If mom and pop can't run it, business is going under. Mm-hmm. Some of the big businesses are going under. Chicago right now is boarding up downtown Chicago because they're getting ready to have the Democratic National Convention in there, and they're scared to death what they're going to do to their businesses. Mm-hmm. Come in there, tear them up, and they've seen it. But they're all, you can't find anything because people don't want to work. They don't want to go in there and do anything. I had a lovely lady, Donnie Rowe, from Work Ready, Oklahoma. She teaches the stuff you were talking about. Firm handshake. Come in on time. Fill out the paperwork right. Do what I ask. And a lot of people don't know that. They show up. I had a guy come in. A friend of mine had Papa Murphy's Pizza. And a guy came in with a Papa somebody else, a different competing pizza guy.
Papa Lashitsky?
Something like that.
Papa John's or something probably.
Yeah,
Papa Biederman.
He came in with that shirt on, and I thought, that's not a good idea. Couldn't fill out the paperwork, didn't put down any type of resume on the thing, and he started walking out and got mad. Okay.
I've stopped hiring people who show up in dumb shirts. Like, if you show up and you have like a shirt, because at first, like whenever I was young and naive, I was like, it's just blue collar people showing up with a shirt that says like, I don't even remember what some of them have said, but usually shirts that have profanity on them. Mm-hmm. I've learned that all those guys who show up in an interview with that kind of just lack of caring always suck. I mean, they're always terrible applicants. You hire them on, they don't last very long. They're combative. They are not willing to learn. They usually end up breaking something within the first couple days. Like, it's signs like that you look at whenever you're going to hire somebody.
See, that's the first I've heard of that.
Yeah. And I tell, and like, sometimes I get guys like we did hire a kid, and his first day of work, he showed up and he had a hat on that said "sounds like bullshit," and I said, "Sorry, buddy, you can't wear that here. We're a little more buttoned up operation than that. We're not your grandpa's farm anymore." But I mean, but that's where you can also learn. I mean, you know, you hear people say things like, oh, kids don't want to work, or they're idiots, or they, you know, whatever, this generation's stupid, we're going to hell in a handbasket with this generation. But really what I've learned is these young kids, they do want to work. They are hungry for work, but you've got to work with them a little bit, and you've got to teach them. And as an employer, they don't have, some of these kids just did not have good parenting, frankly.
Exactly.
And they've not had a good role model. And if you can fill that void for them and teach them, they are willing to learn and work.
A lot of parents want to be friends. Mm-hmm. They don't want to be parents. When I did the old Pubco project, and I was over all the subcontractors, which would have been you guys, and the heat and air, and the doors and the windows and the block and everything like that. Most of them were pretty good guys. Of course, they were all union. Mm-hmm. But there was one guy, I mean, he was just a jerk. He was about 6'8", and he was just a jerk. From the day he stepped on that site until he left, he was just a jerk. And that's the kind of guy, you know, he was always cursing. When the guy that owned Pubco, Gaylord, came through, I don't need your... I said, man, you need to kind of pull it down a little bit. And which I was over the subcontractors, which I really couldn't say anything to them, but I did. But those are the kind of people you see on job sites. A lot of the blue-collar people are that way. Mm-hmm. Once again, if they know they're in pretty good health and can go... Talking to a friend of mine from church one time, I said, what are you doing? He was working for one of the tire shops. He said, yeah, it's my last day. And he's just standing around doing nothing. I said, what are you doing? I said, well, it's my last day. And his idea was, at his age and his health, he could go get another job any place he wanted.
Yeah.
Of course, after a while, especially in small town America, people will learn about that. You won't see them too much.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was talking about earlier with my one coworker that I had years ago. He would do that, and eventually you're going to run out of places. Or, I mean, dude, that's another thing. I look at it on an application. I skip past the school part. Did you graduate? I don't care about all that. But I look at the,
longevity,
last 3 jobs you've had, and how long have you worked at them? You know, and sometimes you can look at the company and go, okay, I know that company sucked to work for, so you found something better, you leveled up, and sometimes it's like you worked here for 6 months, and then you got a better, you got $3 an hour more over here with better experience, and then okay, now you jumped over here, because it's just people leveling up their lives, right? And I'm cool with that, and you can tell the difference between that and, all right, you worked here for $15 an hour, and then for 3 months, and then you worked over here for $14 an hour for 2 months, and then you jumped over here, and so you can definitely see the difference there. And
I had a friend that used to get mad at his employees because they would get a better job. I said, why are you getting mad at them? They're good enough they can go someplace else. I said, you ought to be happy. Try to keep them a little bit better.
Man, that's something I actually had on my notes that I was wanted to talk about this show or the next one is we had that same situation. We have a kid who's like 19 years old. We hired him in the spring. Real good worker, real awesome kid, super quiet, and just really, I've always thought he's a stud. Just good dude. And whenever I was interviewing him, he did ask, "Do you guys travel?" And I was like, no, we don't. We're home every night. That's kind of something that we try to keep doing. We don't want to become a company that's traveling all the time and stuff like that. And he's like, okay. And I said, is that something you want to do? And he goes, maybe eventually. So I knew that this kid probably wasn't going to stay around long. He had welding certs and stuff like that. So I knew that he could go and do stuff. Yeah, he was skilled, and he was getting an unskilled labor job. And, I think, if he had got, become an equipment operator sooner, he might have or something. But anyways, he's looking at this stuff, and he's like, I knew he probably wasn't going to stick around more than a year. And he's been here 7 or 8 months now. And he, the other day he asks off and he goes, hey, can I leave for a couple hours? I need to go take a drug test. Well, he doesn't have a criminal record, so it doesn't take too much to put 2 and 2 together and go, did you find another job? And he's like, well, I interviewed for one yesterday, and then I'm going to go drug test for it today. I'll find out next week if I get it. And it's like, okay, well, hey, man, what can we do? Like, what's going on? Like, are you unhappy here? Are you... Well, no, I found a job that they're going to pay me $36 an hour plus $130 a day per diem, and I'm going to get to travel to Colorado and Mississippi and weld, which is what I love to do. And it's like, well, great, man.
Does he need some help?
Yeah, it's like great, man. I'm glad that okay, yeah, they're paying you way more than we are, and you're going to get to do what you love, which you're passionate about, which is welding, and you're going to get to travel, which I know you want to do, And from the day that he started there, I thought, well, we probably won't keep him long, but I hope he will have a good experience while he's here. I hope that we can make him a better person that will make him a better employee or leader or somebody for another company. And I hope he'll keep us in mind if he decides 5-10 years from now he wants to start a family and get off the road and come work here again.
Sounds like he had a pretty good base going into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so why would you get mad about that? I mean, dude, you're bettering your life. Why would you get mad about that?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Oh, I wouldn't. I hear people
employees.
too, and they're like, I can't believe he's asking off during our work time to go do that. That's bull. It's like, we need to write him up. And it's like, okay, write him up. He's quitting anyways. Like, what's that going to do? Write him up so he gets pissed off and never wants to come back here.
Make him really love the company, yeah.
But if you give that person a good experience while they're there, hopefully, again, they'll better the world around them. And then hopefully they'll tell their friends, yeah, hey, man, if you're still in town, go work here. And guess what? Literally the next day we were, advertising to get some more laborers and stuff. One of his friends applied. So it's like, okay, yeah, we gave him a good experience. He's still telling his friends to come apply here. Like, that's what you want, right? He could be like, man, fuck that place, dude. It sucks. I mean, you don't want to work there. You don't want that reputation.
I had a kid come in one time at a job I had, and he filled out the application, and on the job thing, it said, he worked like 2 months, and next job was like 3 months, and everybody, and every one of them had said, difficulty with supervisor. Could not get along with management problems. Yeah. I said, gosh, we have filled that spot. See you later. So no telling where he went or what he did. But that's the whole thing about a resume. You don't want to put down the bad parts. You want to put down only the good parts.
Well, and now we do pretty extensive background checks. So it all comes to the surface. So you might as well be honest in the beginning.
Most of that's on legal, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, truck drivers, you see all their work experience and everything.
Yeah. Well, they got to log in when they do that.
Yes. Yeah, you got to do the clearinghouse deal. So,
but anybody else, they said we do an extensive background check. Oh, really? What's that? Yeah, we check your police records. Is usually what it is.
Sometimes we call, around a small town, so we can check your references pretty quick. Not always, but
depends on if he's popular or not, or if his dad's the mayor and that type of stuff.
Well, it's like if I see that he's worked for another company that I know somebody. Sometimes it's as easy as a text as, hey, do you know this guy? Is he worth it, or is he? And most of the time, it's like, yeah, I mean, he's whatever, all right, whatever.
Well, you're a young guy, you'd do that, but there's guys 40s and 50 years old that have been doing HR. Oh yeah, here you go.
Well, a lot of times in the construction business, you don't know. I mean, because there's guys that have horrible records and maybe worked somewhere 20 years ago that and they were terrible back then. But like you said with you, you were like, I turned my life around, quit drinking and all that. And I mean, there's guys like that too. And our industry's full of guys that are ex-felons or ex-drug addicts or, beat their wife at some point in time, but now are good, upstanding guys, turn their lives around. I mean, this industry is full of those people. And why would you look at something and say, oh, nope, we're not going to hire you just because of that thing that you did 25 years ago?
Well, that's the nice thing about being a Christian. You get a second chance from whatever you did before. And I believe in giving everyone a second chance. They will out themselves pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't take long, and suddenly they're back to whatever they were before. So if they've changed their life around, they've changed their life around.
Yeah, and I agree with that because we've had guys that, you hire on. We hire a lot of guys, and sometimes you just don't know if they're going to make it or not, especially in the asphalt business, just because you get guys that are great candidates that would be hard workers, but it's hot. It is really hot. And so some people can't handle the heat. So you think that they're going to be a stud guy. You already start making big plans for them, and then they last 2 days. And they're like, I just can't handle the heat. Okay, get out the kitchen. And then you get guys that you think, they're not going to do much. And then they get motivated the right way. And then, boom, they're all of a sudden one of your best employees.
Or decide they like the job.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it's just cool. I mean, it's cool because you don't know what you're going to get sometimes until you hire them. You can look at the paper and the application, the background checks, and you get guys that you think are going to be real questionable that end up being just really awesome, and that's great.
But see, you check up on that stuff. You check those guys. You follow them up. A lot of your HR places, they never see them again.
Yeah.
They'll see paperwork come across their desk 2 or 3 times.
Well, that's because I'm not an HR guy.
Well, you are. You hire them, right?
To an extent, yeah. I mean...
Well, that is human resources, whatever it used to be before it was human resources. Personnel.
Yeah. And I don't do all I'm not in charge of all the background checks and all that. I don't want to be an HR guy, but I do like the hiring part of it.
But you meet the people.
I like
you
meeting
talk
the
to
people,
them.
man. That's
you
the
get
best.
the first impression.
Yeah.
Do we all have a little HR in us, I guess?
I guess. I mean, if you're a leader, you all got a little bit, right? You know?
When you're mayor, I mean, when you become governor, you'll say, no, I don't want that guy. And it'll be me. I'll be there all old.
You'll be
but I got experience.
115 years old, man.
I shaved my ears to come see you.
Hey, who's this crazy AM radio DJ that keeps harassing me at the rallies?
Yeah.
You know?
What is AM radio? I don't know.
That'd be great 30 years from now.
I can look forward to it. I'll put it on my bucket list, which is getting smaller.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've covered everybody I can think of.
Yeah.
Hey, one good thing I just noticed yesterday, to get back on a short political talk.
No, go.
The SCOTUS passed a deal not allowing men in female sports. You see that?
Oh.
They voted it down like 6-5 or something.
What about females in male sports?
Well, they're doing it in wrestling, and they're also doing it in baseball and football, usually on kickers. So that's been going on for a long time, and nobody has complained.
Yeah, not on that end.
Yeah.
Well, no. I mean, I'm sorry.
None of them made it pro, though, right? Like, have there been any...
Was there that? No, but there's been a couple college girl field goal kickers.
At one point, before... This was several years ago, but there was an NBA team looking at a girl...
Coach.
No, a girl player, and they were like, if she, can meet the cut. I mean, she was a stud kind of thing, but she ended up not making the final cut, and maybe as a publicity stunt, I don't know, but that's kind of something they were talking about. It's like, I think they invited her to the training camp and stuff.
But hasn't the opposite way, men working with women, hasn't that caused some damages? I know I'm thinking of a volleyball game and also a basketball team where they were playing a guy and the guy hurt a girl real bad, concussion.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but obviously the boxing deal,
two fairly well-known stories. Well, she wasn't hurt in that, but I still say it would be like, okay, here's the weight class you're in, and this guy or whoever you're boxing is supposed to be 120 pounds. And he suddenly puts on 50 pounds. Do you still let him box that girl? No, things have changed.
Yeah.
Same thing with that XY chromosome.
Yeah.
Do you still let him do it? No, things have changed.
Yeah.
That would be the way I'd look at it.
Figured it'd be cut and dry,
Yeah.
Yeah, why are we voting on this? That's stupid. I mean, it doesn't make sense.
That's what sucks, though. I mean, now we got to vote on it.
Yeah. Why do we have to listen to somebody else's opinion? It's been proven this is not working right. So,
and one other little political deal that I want to throw out. This ain't bad, but the grocery stores are supposedly getting a bad rap. But we're going to lower the price of groceries and this and that because they're gouging it. They've come out and they've showed that the profit margin for groceries across the board, across the U.S. is like 1.7% profit margin.
Always has been.
Meaning it is, I mean, think about that. And I'm not very good with math, but for every dollar you spend, they're making almost 2 cents or less per item. So they're not the ones.
The volume is the only thing that keeps them going.
Yeah,
that's why you don't see any mom and pop grocery stores.
Yeah, they're not the ones screwing people.
Yeah.
Well, mom and pops, they have a higher margin of profit, but you don't see that many mom and pop things. What's going to happen when she decides she has to have a new government department that goes in to check food? Now, back in the 70s, I managed that C.R. Anthony store,
right?
And they tried that price thing where it didn't go. I remember basically on Levi's, we were selling a pair of Levi's for $5.25, and you had to go to a book and you have to check, this is what it is. We can't go higher than that. They had federal people to come in to make sure that your items were marked, that you couldn't raise the price on something that was popular, Levi's, shirts and stuff like that. So what's going to happen when they come in and start checking your food prices? People are going to quit doing it. They're going to quit putting food out there. Yeah. They don't want to have the government come over them. Yeah. The stores are going to shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things the stores have right now is because of shoplifting. All the money they're having to spend on that. Haven't been able to do a thing about that shoplifting problem.
Well, and markups are not cut and dry. I mean, we deal with it in the construction industry, right? You have your overhead, and like I just read Sam Walton's book, Made in America. Mm-hmm. Great book, by the way. Really well written, awesome. I mean, that's a book that I would recommend anybody to read, especially if you're trying to grow a business or just be a leader in general, or just trying to understand how those big box stores work. But really good book. He talked a lot about how they have to factor shoplifting into their price, you know, and it's part of overhead. I mean, in construction, we have our office people and vehicles and gas and all these things that it's not just like, yeah, I bought a ton of rock for $15 at the quarry, and now I'm selling it at our plant for $25. Well, guess what? We had to truck that in too. It's not as cut and dry as I bought this apple for $1 and I'm selling it for $1.10. There's a lot of things that factor into it.
Well, yeah, but that's a good point. I bought an apple for $1. I'm going to sell it for $1.10. What if you had a government agency that came in to see why you're selling it for $1.10?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And
because they don't understand your overhead and your costs. I mean, that 10 cents might be enough for you to make money and keep your overhead.
But they would have to raise your taxes in order to pay for that person to come in to check that apple. That's true of these meat processing plants. Every one of them locally has to pay a guy $70,000 a year to be there to check that meat so it can be sold to the public. Mm-hmm. So your taxes, what was the thing I was reading on housing? Right now, the housing closing costs and stuff, 44% of that is directly government related and goes to the government. So where's our problem? Yeah. Just because we're thinking about changing the clown doesn't mean the circus is going to be different. No, it's the same clown.
That's what I keep saying, man. That's why I get so worn out of presidential topics and stuff, because it's like, one guy is not going to fix it or ruin it. There's people that have been in government, and I'm not even talking elected officials. I mean, I've told stories about
bureaucrats,
some municipal people. Like, I mean, I got into it with a city, here in Oklahoma that we were doing a job in, and I got into it because there's a guy who's been there forever, and he's been quoted saying, "I love to bankrupt contractors," and he's not an elected official. He is somebody who was just hired to run this department, and there's millions of those people all over the country on the federal level, and on the, there's guys in the federal government that have been there just working their corporate government job for 40 years that work for, name your agency, and they're pushing stuff. I mean, these are the guys that are part of your problem too. It's not just your elected officials. Now, your elected officials can try to keep something, try to get those kind of people out of there, but also it's really hard to fire somebody in a government job.
Yeah. I have a niece over in England, and she started out in a government job, and she moved up in that one, moved to Salt Lake City, Utah, and is now in England. And each one of those jobs, she would come back to Oklahoma and have a party for all the people. And the people I was meeting, which were all government employees, were not real. They didn't know what was going on. We didn't talk about anything that had to do with the problem.
So disconnected, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just like most of the politicians, they're reading whatever someone told them to write.
Yeah.
There's one politician, every time there's an election for him, every 4 years, he comes out, look, he's working on the farm. Look, it's the same shirt he had on last time. Mm-hmm. So, and that's my opinion on that. You can tell if someone's doing something, if they're getting out and getting stuff done.
Yeah.
It's not always favorable, but that's one reason I like Trump. People, and I've got one of those personalities that's kind of out there, and people say they don't like him because of the way he acts. Well, let's look at what he did. And then we can look at Kamala.
Yeah.
What is she doing? What has she done? She's still in there. What has she done? Well, I'm going to do this. Well, you've been here 3.5 years. You haven't done anything. Why would it change now? Mm-hmm. Change the clown.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the hard part, though, is like that's where people really got to look at their local stuff, too, because it's like, I mean, you go and you say this guy that's hired here, and he is a pain in the ass, and that's where you got to really get your elected people involved and be like, hey, you're over this guy, technically. What can you do to make this guy work with us better? And that's what we got to do. We all got to do that on the local levels, and that's how things change. Whenever somebody's giving you an issue, you got to figure out where that issue is actually being pushed from, and you've got to hopefully try to make change or make good relationship with that person who's been there for 40 years and doesn't want to change their ways because that's how they've done it for 40 years, and the world's different now, and they don't like you. There's still ways to make friends with those guys, and
not always been there.
Yeah, not always. But those are the guys that do a lot of the stuff. Those are your day-to-day guys in the government that are pushing stuff on you. A lot of the politicians get the arrows thrown at them, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a lot of politicians that need arrows thrown at them, but there's a lot of people that they're the silent killers. They were not elected, but they're the ones that are they're doing the day-to-day stuff. Your managers and your department heads and things like that. They're the ones that push a lot of this unjust stuff on you.
They're the ones that come up with those laws that the ones you don't hear about. We're going to have a chicken leg day, National Chicken Leg Day. You don't know about that. That's one of those laws because there's a chicken guy over there, and so he gets it from his congressman who does it. Okay, we make that. But there's tons of those little laws out there. I was going to put in a new water system in Lamont when I was in there. And, okay, we go into it, and I get the grant. Supposedly I get the grant. And the grant was going to cover a new filtering system, which we needed, and new water lines, which we needed. Well, we went 8 years. I went out of office, came back into office, and here it was time to get the grant. What do we get the grant? Well, you get a filtering system. You have to install it. Well, what happened to the water lines and the Well, we can't do that right now. I went to one of the senators at the time, state senator. I said, look, they're doing this to me. They've changed the grant, so I can't get it. He said, well, that's just the way it is. Mm-hmm. So I went to the other senator. He said, well, it won't happen again. I got the next grant. So that's politics. Welcome to politics. When you become governor, you call those two guys up. One of them's gone now, but
yep, I'm on the other side of that. I mean, I'm on the same side. You know, I help a lot of these small towns, like Lamont.
You do.
We help you guys get grants, and that's part of my job. That's how I get work. And I mean, it still has to go out for bid. It's still,
and the grants are out there.
But the grants are out there. We help shoot this. There's another small town close to Lamont that we help them get a whole job package put together, and they got grant money for it, and they did all this stuff, and it was like awesome. And we bid on the work, and we did all that front end work for them, helped them write the contract for the deal, helped them put it out for bid, and then another contractor won the work. You know, so it's not like we're colluding or anything like that, but it's politics, man. We play that game, and we have to. And
the law used to say the lowest bid, but then they changed it to the lowest and most qualified bid.
Yeah, but it's still the lowest bid.
Well, that's what people look at, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now then, a lot of them come in, well, by the way, this is an extra. So, once again, Evans has a great name.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, and most contractors around here do. I mean, and that's something that I said, they're like, man, I wish you guys would have gotten. I said, did the contractor who got it do a good job for you? Yeah, they did a pretty good job. I was like, were they good to work with? Yeah. And I said, that's all I can ask for. I said, as long as they're putting out a quality product, it sucks that we lost the work. We created an opportunity that we were able to bid on it. They beat us. And as long as they did a good job, so be it. Best man won. And that's how you have to view this stuff. And because as an industry, you want the industry as a whole to be good.
Right, yeah.
Because if say we're the only good asphalt contractor in the state, or even just in a few county radius, and everybody else is just putting out crap, well, guess what? All your politicians and all your guys that are in your transportation departments are going to say, we don't want asphalt on the roads anymore. We need to start doing this, and that. And it's not because the product is bad, it's because the contractors are bad. And so if the
aftertaste they leave in the mouth.
Yeah, if the whole industry is doing well, we all do well. So, that's just
roofing is a good example.
Yes.
In Oklahoma City, my gosh, the roofers and the bad stories they had, they were all bad in there. And with the thing with the roofer, they come in and they roof your house. You don't know if it worked until it rains. Well, they're gone by then.
Yeah, the roof ain't leaking. Well, that's because it ain't raining.
It's not raining, and there's no snow on it and stuff like that.
That's always the biggest gripe with we call them, the fly-by-night roofers.
They're out there.
Yeah, they take the money. We're going to be here. We're going to be here. And next thing you know, they get the contract. They leave. It doesn't rain for 2 or 3 months. They try to reach out to that. They're already down the road, and good luck getting your money back or getting that thing warranted or serviced.
People coming into small towns, they go around and knock on the doors. Well, we'll put asphalt driveway. Okay, do this. And I said, you're having that done? Yeah, oh, yeah, they're going to come in and do this, this, and this. It's going to be great, and it's going to be wonderful. All right. 6 months later, there's weeds growing up through the asphalt, right? Okay, and another place is calling me. They didn't call me when they came in either. They're wanting to know my driveway's not, or my parking lot's not right. So I call the guy up and wherever he's at, and I said, yeah, this is Larry King. I'm the mayor. And I said, I've got a street I'm wanting to see about asphalting, but I need to have you come and look at it and let me know, give me a bid. Oh, yeah, I can be there in, this is 7 minutes, so, whatever, a couple of days. Comes in, we go look at the street. Yeah. Well, I can do it for $35,000 or whatever the figure was. I said, okay, I'll have to take it before the board. Oh, by the way, this house over here is a problem. And this business over here is having a problem. Oh, well, I'll go look at him. He made him right. But if I hadn't called him in to come in and bid on that street, he wouldn't have come back. And there was fly-by-nights. They're all that way. They show up in nice new equipment and make it look good, but take the money and run.
Yep.
A lot of them will ask for so much up front, which I used to have to do that because you got to pay for your material. So you get a third up front. And, but a lot of them want the whole thing up front.
No, never do that.
No, never.
You can tell people that, but I guarantee you there will be some people today that will say, okay, well, I'll just write a whole check for it, you know.
No, I mean, I can understand almost half, because a lot of times if you're, you know, obviously a big enough company can float that, but at least get the shingles on site, you know, because shingles are, you know, probably at least a third, if not half of the cost. You know, and all the material, but.
You pay for you'll trust them on the labor that they'll pay that later, but at least get the material taken care of, because that's someplace else you got to go back to and try to get some material.
Okay, so the people in the comments are talking about National Giblet Day needs to be.
I saw that
on here. So,
what is that?
What date should we make National Giblet Day? Casey's starting his own giblet company. He's going to start selling
gizzards and giblets.
Yeah, gizzards.
Well, I guess a gizzard is a giblet.
A gizzard is livers and gizzards and all that.
Livers?
Heart.
What's a liver?
It's going to be Casey's Country Fried Giblets.
Liver.
Which parts? Oh, liver. Okay.
Yeah. Livery.
Hey, what is a livery? I'm sure you'd know.
A livery, that's a horse stable.
Okay. I knew it was more kind of an old timer name.
It's right.
It's also what you call. It's also the outside of the car on a Formula One car. They call it the livery.
No.
Really?
Yeah. They'll say like their livery. You know, the livery release. It's the shape and the look of the car. That's
really.
Yeah.
Also, the guys that were driving the horse carriages, the outfits they wore were called their livery.
Did you know why they call it riding shotgun in a vehicle?
Because that's where the guy with the shotgun on the stage sat. I saw those movies. Johnny Mac Brown.
Yes, supposedly, and I could be wrong, but whenever they were on the horse and carriage or whatever it was, and you got the guy that's
stagecoach.
The stagecoach, there'd be a person in the back with a shotgun to take care of them to make sure nobody snuck up on them, and they'd be riding shotgun to make sure nobody could sneak up on them.
Well, he sat next to the driver, but he could jump up on top of that in case they were coming.
But I think it came from the old Western-y.
Well, and it came in like the 40s and 50s because the kids were all going to see these B movies.
Right.
Tom Mix, Johnny Mac Brown, one of my favorites. You watch them on TV, and they all were riding shotgun. So you go out and get in the car. Mom, I want to ride shotgun. Shut up and sit down. You want me to put this seatbelt on? We don't have one. Shut up and sit down, you know.
So what would be a good day for National Giblet Day?
I don't know. You're the giblet guy.
It might have to be around Thanksgiving. I mean, I don't want to get too many holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, but that's when you get all the giblets out of the turkey.
So what if Wednesday was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving was National Giblet Day? Because that's whenever most people were throwing them away. So you could do Casey's Country Fried Giblets, and Wednesday is National Giblet Day.
Dude, that is perfect.
Dude, we just invented a holiday.
The day before Thanksgiving.
That's it, dude. And that's bureaucracy at work, Larry. I'll tell you what.
Now go in and check with a bureaucrat and see how many national days there are that day. National what day? Now you're wanting to sell the giblets. That'd be totally different from that National Giblet Day.
We're a not-for-profit organization.
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
We don't want to sell.
We're a theoretical organization.
We're going to set up our 501c3 giblet.
Our giblet business.
We're not going to send any money to the stockholders because I am the stockholder. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, man. Casey, are you looking up how many national holidays are on
I'm
that
looking
day?
up National Giblet Day. There's a National Fried Chicken Day.
Yeah, that's not the same. Wednesday is the
Thank you.
There's a place called Gizzard Fest.
Gizzard Fest.
Yeah, the small town atmosphere, live music, carnival, and great food.
You need to be the MC for that.
Where would Gizzard
bring people from across the Midwest? We're going to look it up.
Is that in
where's
Kentucky?
Gizzard Fest? I think we need to go record a live podcast there.
Is that in Kentucky?
It's pulling up slow. I'm not on the.
You're not on that.
I'm not on the dirty and driven Wi-Fi.
Well, the dirty and driven Wi-Fi is also not that great.
Could be worrying about people looking up National Gizzard Day or Giblet Day.
I'm afraid what it's going to pull up here.
What is it? The Giblet Festival or Gizzard Festival?
Gizzard Fest.
Gizzard
Here we
Fest.
go. Gizzard Fest. And this is legit. Your ticket to fun, June 6th, 7th, 8th, 2024. So we just missed it.
It's in Michigan. Damn, dude. I was just in Michigan.
2024 theme is Under the Sea.
Eating. Oh, there's a gizzard eating
under
contest,
the sea?
Casey.
Oh,
Dude,
man.
Casey,
That's
Dirty
it.
and Driven Athletics is sponsoring you to
Dude,
go
I'll
to
do it
the
next
National
year.
Gizzard Eating Contest.
Yeah,
You're the only guy that can actually stand to eat them.
I know what a bucket list is, but you guys need to get a bigger bucket. What did you do today? I went to the gizzard eating contest.
The theme is
really
under the
enjoyed
sea,
it.
so you got to be a sea chicken.
Do fish have gizzards?
No, I think it's poultry.
Well, that's what I was thinking. Chicken of the sea.
Oh, chicken. Hey, good point. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Well,
There's a Gizzard Fest
what I do.
parade. Another clucking 5K. Dang, dude, this is a legit event.
Dude, this is great.
Oh, and there's a pancake breakfast? Where's this at, though? I don't see like a town.
You guys know there's politics and stuff on those phones you can look at that might be important.
It says Potterville Food Pantry, so I wonder if it's Potterville.
Potterville, Michigan?
Maybe. Unless that's somebody's name, obviously.
Maybe. I don't know, man. Isn't Potterville from
It's a Wonderful
Potterville
Life.
It's a
High
Wonderful
School.
Life, yeah.
Potterville High School, so yeah.
Yeah. Huh. Okay.
I wonder if it was named after that.
I don't know. Wasn't he the evil guy?
Yes, he was a bad guy. That was when George Bailey came back. It was Potterville. Or Potter, or whatever the thing was.
after he died, right? Or he was never born.
He was never born.
Yeah.
And
Are y'all talking about Boo Radley?
No, It's a Wonderful Life.
yeah, Boo Radley was.
That's
All right, dude. We're sending a crew to Michigan next year.
We're doing old movies, and I go blank. My mind goes blank.
Yeah.
Hi.
Well, guys, we've been rolling here for 2 hours, so
What?
that's a little longer than Larry's normal radio show, and we didn't take
Yeah.
any breaks for ads, so
How are you?
But it was all gold.
it was all gold.
Didn't get my how are you in there. on the intro.
Yeah, you
We
didn't,
missed
did you?
it.
Yeah, there it was. Well, I do want to say a quick word. Drop a tip in the tip jar if you like this episode. Give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting platform, or just hit the like button on your YouTube video you're watching on. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you know whenever we're going live again. We have some more just wicked guests coming up.
Is there another old timer you're gonna?
There's going to be some more old timers. Well,
Hey,
you
Larry-
guys got the best stories. I mean, all these construction podcasts
Yeah.
are bringing on the young guys that are hustling, which is cool, but sometimes it's just cool to hear the stories, man.
How it used to be. The old days. How it used to be.
old days.
I remember when I was just a little shaver.
I mean, just like we glossed over a ton of Larry's stuff. I mean, we could spend a whole couple hours on each one of those. You know what I
I
mean?
know. There's so many rabbit holes we could dive down.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Larry, thanks for coming in, man.
Hey, my pleasure. Enjoyed it.
We
You guys got to
appreciate it.
come back on my show occasionally,
We
I
will.
would love to, yeah.
You just tell us when, yeah.
and we can talk about me being on your show. And then when I come on here, we can talk about.
Us being on your show.
There we go. I mean, we got years of this stuff going on.
yeah,
Thanks a
yeah.
lot, guys. God
Yeah,
bless.
Yeah. Hey guys, be sure to check out our sponsors, Fading Fast. There's going to be the fall tour coming up in September, October. So Larry's got the coaster in his hand, coaster sticker. There it is. So check us out. Come to a show. We're going to be all over Kansas, Oklahoma, and remember,
At
drop
the
a tip
same
in the
time?
tip jar at the same time.
Is it a big band?
We will yeah, big
Loud?
band.
Is it loud?
Yeah, it can be loud. No, remember, guys, every single day, try to better your mind and your body, and get out there and do something hard today.
Amen.
Well, by God.